All right, welcome to podcast number 5. This is Rock 30, Bill and Jay's excellent podcast. I'm Billy Quinton.
I am Jay Odom, and they have let us go five rounds without it still letting us come back. So
that's right. We still get to be on the air. I'm excited. We're rounding out the House District 33 race.
Yes.
And so we've had Justin, we've had Katrina, and of course now we have Dennis London joining us. We're excited about that.
Did we save the best for last?
It sounds like it.
We're going to have to let people decide.
We got a lot of questions, though. We got a lot of questions.
We'll decide at the end.
We're going to
decide at the viewers decide.
Yeah, we're going to decide at the end, and we'll go from there. But, Jay, right. You got some good info on Dennis.
I do. This just is the tip of the iceberg, so we'll get into it. But Dennis London is a District 33 Texas House of Representative candidate. He's a Marine Corps veteran, a cybersecurity business owner, Christian, and a proud Texan. His life prior to politics included servicing his customers, being a devoted husband, and contributing to his community. He says that the direction of Texas government has him alarmed, and the erosion of integrity, skyrocketing property taxes, the border crisis, inappropriate content in schools, and unresponsive politicians compelled him to step up and represent our voice in Austin. After living through the fall and decline of the Republican Party in California, he moved to Rockwall County in search of liberty and freedom. He has a popular talk given around the state entitled, "Don't California My Texas."
Yes, sir. I like it.
He's a charter member of the Marine Corps League Detachment number 1465 and a campaign coordinator for the Rockwall County Toys for Tots. He's deeply involved in veterans affairs, including the American Legion Terry Fisher Post 117 and the Band of Brothers. He and his wife are active members at the Lady of the Lake Catholic Church and is affiliated with the U.S. Marshals Posse, Sheriff's Association of Texas, North Texas Crime Commission, and North Texas InfraGard, as well as supporting multiple law enforcement agencies. He's also a dedicated supporter of Republican clubs in Rockwall and Collin counties.
Let's get right to the first thing I want to ask.
All right.
Born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. That place is a disaster right now, isn't it? Baltimore is.
Well, it is now.
Yeah. So, first of all, Maryland, that's great. I confirmed it is still below the Mason-Dixon line, so you're good.
All right.
But
That's right.
yeah, and then how did you get from Maryland to sitting here with us today?
Joined the Marine Corps at the age of 17.
Wow.
It was actually on my mom's birthday because I was not quite 17 and a half. So I had to have her sign. So happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah, moms are big fans of you leaving off, going off in the military.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, she was proud of it. She was really
Sure.
happy, and got me out of her hair for a few years. So yeah, joined the Marine Corps, traveled around the world. Last duty station was El Toro, California, before Clinton decided to start on his let's shut down all of our military installations.
Yep.
And so did that. While I was there, shortly after arriving during that time, I met and married my wife. And we've been married for going on 33 years now.
Wow.
So, yeah, I still jokingly introduce her as my first wife.
There you go. I go current wife.
Okay.
I go with
There you
current
go.
wife.
Current
works,
wife, right.
current
Yeah,
works.
current works.
There you go.
Okay, so and her name?
Sherry.
Sherry, and kids?
No kids.
No kids.
We're never blessed with children.
Okay.
Now, how did
Hey.
you meet? Where did you meet your wife? I know it's California, but what's the quick story?
Yeah, were y'all throwing frisbees? I picture y'all throwing frisbees on the beach.
Well, okay. Which camera should I look at? She picked me
There's
up
your
at a
strike
bar.
shot, right? Oh, is that
Oh,
it?
wow. That's great.
And now we have the flyer that
Yeah.
we've all
There
been
you go.
looking for.
Yep.
There-
Yeah, and now that bar that they met in is a gay bar.
No,
California. No.
I don't even think it's in existence. So,
Y'all shut it down.
Yeah. Well, man, we're excited that you're here. And this has been one of the most interesting races in a long time.
It's
around
contentious.
here. It is very contentious.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, that's really good. And here's the issue we have with you is we can't find any dirt on you. And so that's a problem. He's a Marine, he's got a wonderful wife.
I've been looking.
I know, there's nothing really.
Find it.
So I want to start with this. I'm going to make up something and make him answer it, okay?
I like that.
I want to do that because I want to be fair. The other candidates, we had Justin Holland and we had Katrina Pearson on previous. We kind of, ask him some uncomfortable questions, all the questions people want to ask. I don't know if anybody wants to ask this one, but I'm going to ask.
I like it.
Dennis's last name is London. That's the capital of the last country that ruled over us. The rumor is he wants to turn our country into a monarchy. Answer that one, Dennis.
I think I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. He wants to be king. That's
Tell
what
us
I'm
about
hearing.
Oh, no.
Is that the end goal? The end goal?
Yeah,
No,
scepter and all that
no,
stuff, the
no,
flowing robe.
no.
All right, that's all I got.
I can't even do a good English accent. I mean, come
I
on.
can't either. I try. My
And
wife.
I try. My wife's like, honey, just no.
This stuff.
That's about-
You could be like a good friend of mine's Rodney Webb, lives across the street, and every time Rodney tries to do any accent, it turns into an Asian accent. I don't know what happens. He could be doing German, he could do Russian, but it turns
French,
into an Asian
and it's
accent.
all- yeah.
All I know on English accents is "Good day, governor." I do the governor, and I
not
throw that
bad.
out there.
That's not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, that's all I got.
well,
Yeah,
I
well,
wanted-
and actually, my last name was shortened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my great-grandfather on my dad's side, they immigrated to the country, and they came through Ellis Island, and they were Lithuanian Jews.
Uh-huh.
And so from that perspective, when they got there, we don't even know what the whole last name was. They just shortened it and
Oh,
spelled
wow.
it L-O-N-D-O-N.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. There's so many families that done it. My family
a
does
lot
that.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a question I've got is how have you stayed out of that stack of fire? What do you attribute that to?
I'm mentioned in a couple of
Okay.
them.
Okay, you've been mentioned, yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, but you're not like for tearing down the schools, all these negative things that are coming out there.
Did you cheat on a test when you were 6?
Right.
Because that would have been on there.
I did look it up. He has an overdue library book.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
He's the
Yeah.
investigative reporter.
There it is.
so-
There it is.
I wonder how much.
I'm not going to mention what book it was.
I wonder what those fees would be now.
I know.
Woo,
That's
with
true.
interest. Ooh.
Yeah, it's Tropic of Cancer.
Because
No.
I'll tell you now, it's been a few decades since I've been in
Been
a
in a
library
library,
in a
yeah.
school.
Well, I went and won today because I went and voted.
Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there you go.
But that wasn't
gotta
in
go.
a school.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Where'd you go?
Huh?
Where did you go vote today?
At the library.
At the library.
The county library. I don't know if you've ever been there, Jay. It has books and everything. Got computers. Got cool stuff.
I've been to vote, but not really into the innards of the
Oh yeah,
library.
yeah. That's what's great. What's great about our deal is when you go to our library to vote, you're just right in the door to the side.
you
You
don't
don't
have
have to get all that knowledge that you want and nobody wants. You just want to
Slide
get in
in
there and
and
get
out.
out.
That's
yeah,
right.
exactly.
And for those of you that haven't voted yet, early voting is going on
Is
now.
now. Is now. Yes.
We need him to record our promos.
I
That's
know.
a good
I
voice.
know.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, as most people know, this is your second time
Yes,
to
sir.
run.
That's correct.
When did you say I'm doing it again?
It literally was during the first week
Okay.
of this last current session. So that was, wow. I went down. So during the last campaign, and I don't know if you remember any of what I talked about during it, and some people do, some people don't, and I get it, right? I was kind of the 9-week guy. I came in last minute, didn't really make a big splash, but enough of people started listening to me, and I managed to get almost 26% of the vote. Well, through that, I was telling people, look, I'm going to go down there and advocate for the good and fight the bad. I want to be the voice of the people. And that's what and I still say that today. I want to go down there and be the voice of the people because we're not being heard. I didn't win, but I also didn't quit, and I wanted to live up to that promise. I am a man of my word. So I went down to Austin on my own, and I was there during the first week of the session. And on day 2, because one of the legislative priorities for the party was to stop giving the minority party, in this instance Democrats, committee chair positions in a Republican-led House. We're the only state in the country that does this. And you'll hear people say, oh, well, we have to do it for bipartisanship. We have to do it in order to get this. We don't have to, right? I mean, we have 86 Republicans out of 150 seats, 64 Democrats. In order to pass a bill, we just need 51% to pass a bill,
Okay.
okay? So that would be 76. We have 86. It's not a matter of what we're asking them to do. It's who we're asking to do it, which is why right now you've got 47 incumbents being challenged by grassroots conservatives.
Okay. All right.
And that's a number that a lot of people don't even realize. And then it would be more, but some of them decided, I'm not going to run again. They decided not to run.
To go through that.
Right.
Now, so it's a falsity. You do not have to reach across the aisle to get anything done. You do not.
No, if you're going to be doing amendments and constitutional perspective, yes,
Yeah,
because you have to get the 100 votes.
Yeah,
Correct.
right.
Right. But in order to pass a bill, another piece of legislation, you don't need 100 votes.
Okay. All right. I was mistaken on that. I thought you had to have it to pass a bill. Okay, I get that now. Yeah, because Katrina was here before. She is not for Democrats as committee chairs, but Justin clearly is. He's actually nominated, I believe, a number of them. So
Well, and I've talked with some people, some representatives about it, the ones that support it, and I've asked them, why do you support this? And couple of the representatives up in Collin County, some throughout the other areas in Texas, and they've said we would rather have the people who are most knowledgeable running the committee on those topics. And I said, they don't have to run the committee, but I'd like them to at least be on the committee.
And that's where I come in. I am somebody that I'm not against having a minority party being a chair, but the reason I say it is exactly that. What if it's the most knowledgeable person for that particular committee?
But why do they have to run it?
Right, and that's a good point. I see that
think
where
that's a
they can be
slippery
very
slope.
yeah, it is, but I think that is a very that's a good point because they can still be active, they can still be involved, they can still, and so but that's my deal. And I feel like our politics right now, and we mentioned this in your intro, is very poisonous right now. You can't agree with anybody on the other side, even if it's something that we all agree on. We shouldn't kick puppies. But if you say, I agree with that Democrat, we shouldn't kick puppies, now you're a bad guy because you agreed with the Democrat, or the vice versa. Yeah. And so where do you stand on that, where it's almost toxic if you say anything positive about the other side?
No, well, saying something positive about the other side, there is nothing wrong with that. Okay? It's only when they are running and doing legislation or processes that are counter to what we should be doing.
Right.
That's where I have a problem.
Right. I agree. I'm with that. Yeah.
And I mean, growing up in Maryland, we know there's a lot of Democrats in Maryland, right? It's a blue state. I lived next door to family of the Baltimore mayor. And so, Democrat, and he would come over, and I had family that some were Democrat, some were Republican. You can imagine the conversations at dinner until somebody, usually my grandmother or someone, put their hand down and said, "That's enough," and then all the political conversations were done.
That was it.
Okay, and you got on to how was school, how's this, how's the new dog, what's going on, and you went right into being cordial.
Yes.
We can't do that today in today's society.
No. Right, that's my issue.
And exactly. And if you try to be cordial with someone, then you have people going, "Oh, they're cozying up to the other side," right? And now all of a sudden you're painted as a bad person because, hey, you know what? I may not agree with this person, whether it's politically, environmentally, whatever the state, it doesn't matter. You sit there and people say, well, you can't agree with them because you're not on the same platform. No. What's wrong with us? What, we can't do that.
And wouldn't that make it more available to work together in the future? Because I talked to Katrina about this, where she kind of took what I said out of context a bit, and then we got back on point, where there are going to be times where I think right now, I mentioned this on that podcast, the immigration, the liberals and the Democrats are kind of coming around on how these borders need to be tightened up a bit.
Exactly.
Well, they start shipping them to New York.
Right.
And
that's because of Abbott, and that's because of all the shipping, and now they have to deal with it, and it's not so easy to sit there and tell people how to do it when you're dealing with it.
Yeah.
And so, and I said, if a Democrat comes to you and says, man, what's your thoughts on what we got to do here? And you say it, and they say it, that's a positive. That is a positive where you got a guy. And that's where, but we can't seem to get to that point right now.
Here you go. You ready? Right. Brace yourself. All right. Okay?
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. All right. Believe it or not, California actually had one thing right.
Did they really?
Yeah.
What is
So
Wait,
and
let me guess. Like, I don't know.
he tried.
So, all right. So, in the 70s, California started looking at people being taxed through property taxes out of their homes. So they came up with something that was called Prop 13. And Prop 13, and I'm telling you this because what is one of the big issues we here in Texas are all talking about? Property taxes, right? So Prop 13 took the purchase price of your home according to the interest rate at the time, and it froze that in there, and it gave a little bit of an incremental increase bump up. And I mean, it literally, I can't remember, it was like 1.3, 1.8% or whatever it was on the growth on that. But it was done so people wouldn't lose their homes through property taxes. What's the problem that we have now here? We have people that are losing not just, new homes and what have you, but the generational homes.
Yes.
Farms, ranches are being lost because they can't afford to pay the property taxes.
And it's a major roller coaster as
Absolutely.
far as these numbers.
And every time that I bring this up and I say, okay, everybody brace yourself, I'm going to tell you something, California had one thing right. Okay? But what that did, and of course, cities are going to fight it. They're going to, oh, well, we're not going to have the revenue that we're supposed to have. We can't do. Hey, you know what? Maybe, I don't know, just a thought. Don't spend as much. Just a thought.
Yeah.
That's a radical thought.
Yeah. Be fiscally conservative.
That's right.
Oh, how dare I?
Yeah.
You're just going off the end.
I am.
already
Man.
gone off.
We're only what? In?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're barely in, and now people are clicking off.
Now, while we're talking about the Democrats, how in your mind,
How did we get on that?
it always seems to go.
I was going across the aisle.
Across the aisle.
See, I grew up. My dad was a yellow dog Democrat.
Okay, right.
Yeah, he was
Wait,
conservative as
I
they
do
come.
not know that term.
Yellow dog. Democrats used to be conservative. The South was all
Oh,
Democrat
okay. Yeah.
back in the day.
Like everybody's grandparents or
yeah,
grandparents.
yeah,
That was
yeah. And he was loyal. My dad was more loyal than anybody in the world. So he grew up Democrat. So then the Democrat Party started switching over to more liberal and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It killed him, but he's like, I'm not switching. My family was Democrat. I'm a Democrat,
Many
but
were
a
like
yellow
that.
dog is a conservative Democrat.
I see.
And he would have to sit there and defend like Clinton, and he couldn't, know,
Right, yeah.
but he had to,
It was like your sports team.
Yes.
When they're losing horribly,
Yes.
but you still got the
Yeah,
back.
if you're a big Cowboy fan, but you dislike Jerry Jones, and all that, that's kind of similar deal. You're still going to be a Cowboy fan, and you kind of got to defend him now and then, but it's tough. It's tough, and that's what. And so I remember growing up a very conservative area, and we're one of the few. My dad, Democrat, but I remember telling him I could never vote Democrat, and he's like, yeah, I get it. That's basically the party that I want to be in, but I can't. So, but anyway, you were mentioning Democrats. I'm sorry, I just jumped
that's
on
okay.
that real quick.
In your mind, from what you know, the difference between Texas Democrats and Democrats in D.C.
Oof.
Well, how would, from what you know, the comparison there? Are they all?
I think they're taller here.
A little taller here.
Yeah, my research.
Go back. Let's see. Well, you can go back even just 15, 20 years. Democrats here would probably be Republicans in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I don't know, maybe not today so much, but go back 15, 10 years.
So we go back to Ralph Hall. He was a Democrat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he
I
switched over.
recently heard that.
And
because he realized that party had left
him.
all the principles that we all were.
Right.
Was that in the 80s?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah, it was in
remember?
the 80s, I believe.
okay.
Yeah.
No, he converted over to the Republican Party in 2004,
Was it that late?
2003.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I just had somebody ask me that the other day.
Really?
And we looked it up, and they were
I've
like,
always
"No,
thought it was like,
just-"
oh wow.
Yeah, it was only like 20 years ago.
So he was
Oh,
a
man.
Democrat under the Clinton administration. Wow.
But
I did not
voting
know.
conservative, pretty
Right.
much.
Yeah.
Voting our
Yeah.
way.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's part
Which
of
is
it.
kind of, we need to do more of that. Maybe get some conservative
It
Democrats
would
in
be
there and
great
start
if we
swinging
could.
it.
I just don't know if that's possible.
No, it's impossible
just-
because you wouldn't get elected.
Yeah.
The liberals would go crazy if you say I'd like to be responsible with myself. They don't know how to do that. The
We
government's
want
got to
smaller government.
Yeah,
What?
smaller government. What are you talking
Lower
about?
taxes. What?
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
yeah.
And going back to your run in 2021, now that you've had some time, are there things you would have done differently?
Oh, there were a lot of things.
And
I
how
would've
do
done
you
different.
feel as looking back?
Sure.
And you know how you have time and space. How do you, when you think about that time? Tell me about that.
Okay, so if I were to go back and change something, I think honestly, working through what I had to work through as a learning experience, like we talked about, School of Hard Knocks, right? So that's exactly what that was. That was a School of Hard Knocks. I was learning on the fly, drinking from the fire plug, and it got to a point where I had people that said, there's a lot to learn. You may not be as effective, but we're still going to back you. And that's really what it was. And honestly, when I look back at it today, I go, I wasn't ready, And, whether you take a look at anybody who's run on their first time and lost, okay, were they ready during that time? And majority of them will say, no, I don't think I was. Because I spent all of last year learning this job, and doing everything I could except for pressing the button.
And that's, I want to get to that too, of what
Sure.
you've been doing in D.C.
I wasn't in D.C.
I mean,
I'm
Austin.
sorry, Austin. We were just talking about Democrats in D.C. That'll be later. Let's go back to Texas. You're like, no. But so I heard you at the forum talking about going down there. How does that work? As far as, since you're not an elected official,
Right.
you go down there. Is it like auditing a class in college, or what? So what do you? How does that work?
So anyone can go down and attend any of the sessions.
Okay.
Okay, so you can go down there as long as they have room in the gallery. You can sit in the gallery just in the upper area. There's no holding onto the railings. They don't want you videoing and things like that. They do offer video out of their own, and you can watch and record that. You can also go into a representative or senator's office, and they typically have on one of the cameras in there, they have the session running, so you can see it and hear it.
Okay.
So anyone can go and do that, and you can also, even at home, we can sit there and
you can
watch it
watch it.
online.
Now, to say I've gone to the gallery in D.C. and here, and one thing they frown upon is starting the wave. I've tried to do that. They do not like that. And so I would not suggest starting
Did the rest
wave.
of the crowd participate?
Well, you start it, and you go, and they're
then
like,
you-
they're thinking about important things, but I want to get a good wave going. And
It's support.
it
for
did.
your, for
I
your
know,
state.
but it didn't fly. Sorry, Dennis.
Texas
go ahead.
DPS comes over, excuse me, sir, what are you doing?
Don't do that here.
Well, because you have to be careful, too. I mean, they get some nut jobs down there.
I could imagine.
They get some real nut
And
jobs.
what
down
is your opinion of, you're there watching it,
Right.
the reporting of it? Do you feel like that it's accurate reporting when you see?
It's all tainted.
Okay, that's what I was getting to. Yeah.
It doesn't matter who it is. I was interviewed by a couple different papers down there. One of them, and they were asking me about the Democrat chair perspective, because that's our first week, and that vote came up, and it happened on the second day, and we were there with folks that were wearing the ban Democrat chair shirts, and so well, what's the big deal with this? Why do you want to ban Democrat chairs? And so we were explaining the position, explaining the process, what was going on, and what happens when you give. Here's the way I explained it to him. I said, all right. When you show up, if you're a coach of a football team, would you walk across the field and ask your opponent's team if you could have their defensive coordinator run your offensive line?
Not likely.
No, you wouldn't do that. Right? Well, that's what we're doing by giving the Democrats committee chair positions in these committees. And so I was leaving, I was getting out of the elevator, and I knew that it was, one of the Democrat reps in there, and she had some of her staff with her. And so as we were leaving, she goes, well, and y'all wouldn't want to give us chairs. And I turned around before the doors closed, and I had my hand in, and I said, would you? And it threw her. She wasn't expecting that, because she was waiting for the doors to close, and that was going to be her parting comment.
She did. She got caught.
And she got caught and went, oh. Because I'll tell you, and this is where, when people ask me why I really wanted to get in and what was I doing, and the whole California to Texas thing, and don't California my Texas, I'll tell you, Democrats, when they take control, they will never give an inch to the Republicans. They will, and he's over there shaking his head like it won't happen, never happen.
Right, I agree 100%.
Right?
Yeah,
Because once they take control, and here's what they do: they keep asking us to give a little, just a little, give a little, right? We just acquiesce a little bit, just a little. And every time it becomes death by 1,000 cuts, because we'll go left, 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 then we go right, and we're supposed to celebrate that one step to the right. Oh, you got your victory. Yeah. Really? We took 4 steps to the left. We come 1 to the right. We're still further over, and we're supposed to celebrate this.
Reminds me of the discussion we were having on gun control.
yeah, that leads us to the gun control deal. Yeah,
Sure.
Which, that one little step leads to more. And
Absolutely.
and that's where we talked about Justin wanting to, 18 and 20-year-olds not be able to purchase
Semi-automatic rifle.
Yeah, and
Yeah. House Bill 2744.
there you go. See,
Which I want to get, but to interrupt you, I want to get to the picture, and I want to know about Kyle Rittenhouse. But go ahead.
yeah, there you go. But
like
Dennis
there
on
we
There it is.
Dennis on the Bills, knowing all the numbers is like me with the '70s Cowboys. I can tell you every number when they get
Yeah.
it out. It's not as important, but I'll try to work that in as much as I can. Scott Laidlaw. Anyway, but anyway, let's go back to Justin, and I think me and Jay, we talked to him about it, and I understand Justin's side. I really do. I understand his mentality, because he has worked with a lot of representatives that have had the terrible things happen in their districts with the shootings and stuff.
He mentioned the legislator from Uvalde
Evaldi, yeah,
that
and
was
all
there
that.
speaking about
Right.
it, and I know emotions are there. It's easy to armchair quarterback, those kind of things.
Sure.
But I think you've got to hold real strong to the basis of what you believe and what your constituents
Well, and that's what
believe.
gets us back to the little and little. Like, okay, well, we won't ban.
Yes.
They can. How about they can't get pistols, or they can't get. And pretty soon it starts
Well,
snowballing.
they already can't purchase
Yeah, until
pistols,
they're
but
21.
But
That's true.
there
That's
was
true.
a federal judge in Fort Worth who said
That's unconstitutional.
unconstitutional. So now they're basically saying, well, we just won't prosecute it.
Right.
Right.
Like
you know.
California does with every other crime.
Right. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's very similar.
Yeah.
But how crazy is that the federal government said, Texas, you are being too harsh on gun laws.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Right.
we got chastised for being
Right.
unconstitutional.
Right.
And I believe the people that brought the suit, well, they won. And but I don't know how that works. But it doesn't officially change
They
our
won't
state
officially
law.
No.
But
No.
they're not gonna. I read they're not gonna prosecute.
Right.
So in other words, it's allowed.
legislation.
We're gonna look the other
like
way.
marijuana
We're
in California.
Yeah.
Marijuana in
Right.
California. It's not federally legal. It's state legal. We're
Right.
not going to haul you off to jail.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But and I get the uproar when Justin mentioned this, and as much as we all are, but it just still comes back to, I think for me and you, I'll speak for you, Jay. It's real simple.
You do it often.
I do it often, but I am on the side of, I get Justin and I get why he wants to do it, but he admitted even when we talked about it, it won't stop school shootings if they did get passed. And it's like everything else. It's all the gun control argument. It is the wacky thing is the criminals don't follow the law, and because it ain't like embezzling. We still have embezzling, even though it's against the law. Why are people embezzling? It's against the law, but we're thinking of things with our minds instead of the criminal mind,
very true.
or the person that's unstable mind, and we think we're giving them common sense. We think everybody has common sense, and they don't, and that kind of opens that window, that little crack.
Sure.
And so I'm pretty sure I know your side on that, and where you come from on the gun laws.
Well, they're blaming the tool. Okay, because it's really a tool if you think about it.
Yes.
Right. So they're blaming the tool. That would be like going into a construction project, and you go through and you look at all the framing that may be out of line. I'm not talking about D.R. Horton or anyone like that. So you have some
No
issues.
names
No
mentioned.
names,
No
even though-
names mentioned.
even though it's brought up, but
No,
that's
it's-
fine.
That's all right.
Very safe company.
Specifically brought
So-
up, but
No, okay. So anyway, so that would be like going into one of those projects, and instead of holding the construction worker or the contractor accountable, blaming the hammer.
well, and I always do this. The arsonist, should we ban matches? You
Right.
know, that's kind of the same thing. I mean, we don't run around saying, okay, no more matches.
There's so many examples. It's like how many people die in automobile accidents every year?
Sure.
Tons. What if we just said, yeah, we know it's convenient. You probably should be able to drive 70 on the highway, but it's killing people. Cars are killing people. You got to drive 40
Right,
because we
right.
care about life so much.
Right.
That
But then what happens when people are dying at 40?
right.
Well, we're going to reduce it to 25. But what happens when people are dying at 25?
Yeah,
It's
you're going
not
to
the
always
car.
come
We're
back.
going to have
It's-
cars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
But
Well, it's like the whole deal when it comes back to, I just saw the oldest person in the world died. I think it was 112 or something like that.
really?
Yeah, and you're like, somebody is out there killing all the old people. What is going on? Why are we not more worried about this?
Yeah,
You know, it seems like it's kind of that deal. We're going to keep finding something. And I think, and I know that Justin was on that is with his heart, and I know that's and you said it, man. This is something that is on your heart, and this is something that you really believe.
when I
and
looked
I'm
him in
all
the
in with
eyes,
that.
when I looked him in the eyes, I believed it.
Yeah.
And
But
we
what's
all
hard-
have that.
But what's hard is, didn't he know all hell was about to break loose?
That's my thing.
And he said he did.
Yeah, he said he knew it would, but what's hard for me is, you're sticking your neck out there with this one, and it's something that is not going to change anything. I can see sticking your neck out for something that it's going to change stuff. Whatever you want to do.
So then that brings up the question of, did he do that vote to appease the anti-gunners, knowing it wasn't going to go anywhere?
I think that was our question. Is like,
I don't think so. I think it was just his opinion, his heartfelt.
Sure.
These guys I work with, I feel for them. I can't imagine what they're going through with their constituents, all that stuff. I want to do something.
but is it easier to vote like that when you know there's no way in hell it's going to pass?
That's true. That's true that you say, hey, man, we took a shot. But, and this is politics, and we're going to talk about all these things. And I don't want to, bash Justin or anything here, but this is a controversial deal.
Yeah.
That is really, he is having to pay the piper now. I mean, every mailer. I mean, they're stretching it all the way to now. Rittenhouse is bad at
yeah.
it.
There we go.
Yeah,
So
that
tell
one.
me about meeting him.
Yeah, so I met him at the True Texas Gala, and we were talking, and he's, I said, as a Marine, we train for things like this. He was 17, and he was just thrown into this environment where people were actively shooting at him as he was walking down the street trying to get to the police vehicle. He didn't return fire. And I don't know if you saw the videos. He had good trigger control. His trigger finger was on the reference point. He didn't walk around sitting on the trigger just because people were accusing him of being trigger happy. He was just going to shoot anybody. No. He was under control, although he was, panicked and freaked out. And when he went up to the police, he was trying to surrender himself. And they just were like, go away. It's like, holy cow. The poor guy, I mean, he's suffered a lot through this. And he had to move. He had to move. He
moved here.
Yeah, I didn't realize he lives in Texas.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this then, because we go back to that proposal Justin had. What is your thoughts on? I look at a candidate that I'm voting for the same as you can look at your family or your wife. Me and my wife on about 98% of the stuff we're agreeing. You know, but there's about a 2% that we don't agree on. That doesn't mean I don't want her to be my wife. Right. And I look at candidates that way. Like, okay, you disagree with Justin on that one. Is that a reason? Now, unless that is your core, thing you stand on, I can understand that. But there's a lot of people that find one thing. Oh, yeah. I don't agree with that. I'm out.
Single issue voters.
Yes, and that's hard for me to come around on because every person I've ever voted for, I've disagreed on some aspect.
Sure.
Some things.
There's conservative that
I don't
happens
agree
to be
with
the Second Amendment. And I know Democrats who their only thing that matters is the abortion law.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Like, that's it.
Yes.
And if you tell a gun guy he had a vote against the Second Amendment, it's over.
It's over.
Yep.
So and that's why I look at Justin or any other candidate you have. Justin, I feel like, has been a really good representative. There's one thing we disagree on. It's one thing. That's it. About all the other stuff, I'm 100% with him.
Well, how do you feel about the what we were just speaking about, the chairs?
I see Dennis's point on this. I'll be honest with you. The chairs, I go back and forth.
You are very reach across the aisle.
I am. I am because I feel like that's something that
a
we
utopia.
Used to do.
It's nice. It's friendly, but they don't play like that.
No, they don't. They don't. But not all of them. I just don't see how.
You guys asked me how come I don't have any mud on me.
You're letting us say it.
Yeah, we're just going at it. Dennis, thanks for being here. Me and Jay,
we've got it figured out. I mean,
but
I feel like I'm in a tennis match.
But I do go back and forth on stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's great that Dennis is black and white on stuff. I'm more of the okay. I kind of see that too, and maybe that's not. That means that's why I don't run.
I think you have to be, and you tell me, but you have to know exactly what you believe and stick to it.
Absolutely.
Not that you can't be closed-minded.
Right.
But you have to know where your morals sit, what you believe, where all of your constituents sit, and make that vote.
And I want to ask you that
without emotion.
Right. If you start voting emotion instead of logic, principle, moral, ethics,
right?
Then,
that's where mistakes are made.
Absolutely.
If you are elected, if and when you are elected,
yes,
you know that, and we asked Justin this. You have your district wants to go one way on an issue, but you don't want to go that way. How are you voting on that?
If it's moral and ethical issue, I mean, the thing is you're going to have to talk to your district. You have to work because if you just say, I know you voted me as your representative and I disagree with you wholeheartly, you have to be able to. This comes down again to the majority, right? The representative of the district you're representing. If they said, we want you to allow, and I'm anti-abortion. Okay, if they said we want to vote for, and you need to allow people just to kill whatever baby they want, whenever they want, during any stage in the pregnancy, okay, I'd be like, I am not your representative.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. Right? That is a moral issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
But if it's like the vouchers,
right?
Would you say the vouchers are a little less moral? I mean, they're more of a semantics or a amount, and although there still is a lot to it as far as us deciding as opposed to the government and all that. But if there's something that's just more factual. We think this way, this amount of money should go to this. No, we want this money to go here. Where will you go on that? If you disagree on something that's not more moral based.
Well, if we look at that one, 84.7% of the district, 87% of all of the Republicans in Texas voted for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any representative who goes against it is going against the will of the people.
His district. Okay. And so
not just the district, but overall the will of the people as well.
And you're for the vouchers, obviously.
I am.
Okay. But if you were against them, but 84% want it, what would you go do?
I'd have to vote for it.
Okay.
Let's go into schools. Let's talk about the schools. Very simple, quick topic, right?
Yeah.
It's not complex at all.
You know what, Dennis? Let's fix it here.
Okay.
Let's do that. We can do So tell it. Start with an overview. Because what I like to hear is people's thoughts on this is what it means. This is why one group believes this way, and this is why one group believes that way. This is why I believe my way is correct.
Right, on the vouchers.
On the yes.
Okay,
yes.
because he was saying schools. I'm like,
Right.
okay,
We're all for schools.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
schools are
I
good.
don't know.
Apparently, Jay's gone off the
I
reservation.
did not like school, so I'm not.
Well, you didn't go to college.
Thank you.
know.
You're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
I got
You
out
knew
of
I'd
there as soon
sneak
as I
that
could.
in. Yeah.
Right.
But
Well,
yeah,
so-
so the whole issue.
Right, the whole issue, and you heard me at the forum, right?
Yes,
You know,
yes.
the primary educator of children are the parents. Okay, the schools were brought in because we have to teach them the fundamentals of reading, writing, arithmetic, science, and history. Okay, art and gym and other electives are just that. They're electives. There are other things that are added in. So once we add in the basic, we have the core functions. That's what the schools should be focusing on. The problem is that a lot of our schools, and it usually starts in the administration, not necessarily a teacher. There are teachers that go rogue. Right? Oh, you don't need to call me by Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, just whatever, little nickname.
It's still an authority thing.
Yeah, you start getting into that. So parents need to be able to be aware of what's going on with their kids, what the education is, and like it or not, COVID was the great revealer. It showed people what was happening in our schools, and I don't have kids, but hearing what these kids were going through parents, through friends, through neighbors, it's like, holy cow. A friend of ours, mixed race couple, 4th grader came home from school looking at the white mommy and saying, why are you an oppressor? And looking at the black daddy, why are you a victim? Okay. 4th grader. This is here in Rockwall County, so it was like, holy cow. Somebody else tells me, a 6th grader came home, little boy, and the teacher said, if you want to bring makeup in your bag and change and go by a girl and dress up, and it's okay, we don't have to tell your parents. This is here in Rockwall. Okay, so we have an issue that is, maybe it's just a teacher, maybe it's not the administration, but the vouchers will allow these parents who may not be able to afford. Now, granted, it's not going to go for any parent that applies for it. All right, this was also part of that bill. We talked a little bit about what was in this legislation. Right. So there was, I think it was 17,000 that they were going to allow to have in this piece of legislation. So you would get 17,000 options, or opportunities, and it was going to be basically for low-income families to be able to help get their kids out of low-performing schools and move them into somewhere else. Is it going to cover the entire cost? No. Right? Is it going to pay for, is it going to provide busing schedules? No. Is it going to pay for that transportation? No. So there's still going to be costs to those parents, but now they're going to have the option to be able to take their kids out of that district. In inter-district, they still have the capability to today. You could transfer a child out of a school inter-district. So inside that same district, you can move them to another school. I don't know how many times you can do that, but if you have a problem in there, or maybe you're in a rural area and you only have one school in that district, and people say, oh, it's going to defund our schools. Well, how's that going to defund our schools? Because what if those parents got up and moved and took the kid anyway? You're still going to lose that money. Oh, well, it's $6,000 per whatever on their attendance. Okay, well, so now you're going to be losing the quote $8,000 or whatever, and you're going to be getting $10,000 back. Remember, because there was a repayment prospect. So you were going to lose 8 but get 10. Why are you complaining? And here's the other part to this, and I like to remind people of this one. A well-performing school has nothing to fear, because if you're teaching the kids and you're providing the education that they need and the parents are happy, there's no reason to take them out.
I'll say this. I was on the inside for 3 years. I taught for 3 years.
Okay.
And the thing I was shocked at was the amount of attention in education going towards, we need to do this because we get funds. It wasn't as much as, this is something they need to know. This is something that's going to help them. We do that. But there is a lot of, do this and we get $250 a kid. Get them certified in this, or go do this, or go do that. And it bothered me.
Or just teach to the test.
Teach to the test and all that kind of stuff. It bothered me. And then the other issue, we talk about, to be the devil's advocate on the voucher thing. It's a money deal. It's about how much money this group is going to get, and it's not going to be even. It's going to be the low income families are going to obviously have a bigger pot than the. But you sit here now, we see how the schools deal with money now, and it's not great.
Right.
You know, I mean, you look at Rockwall. Rockwall is teachers are one of the lowest paid in Texas. Now it's a great, and so is Highland Park. It's the higher income places have the lowest pay because they don't have Robin Hood. You have Robin Hood helping the less income or lower income, and they have more. So this is this imbalance where people are frustrated. Okay, and as a Rockwall teacher, when I was a Rockwall teacher, it's like, man, we're not getting anything. We're not getting a thing.
Well, think about the competitive perspective, right? We're not just talking about the schools are going to be competing for the kids, right? But you're also going to have that, okay, if the schools have to compete for the kids, maybe they're going to have to raise a salary for the teachers to compete for the teachers. So now you have the right teachers, and all of a sudden everything comes up all across the board. It's not just, and granted, yes, our schools, the end result, the end product is an educated child.
Yeah.
Almost a little bit like capitalism.
What?
Well, that's
Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course, I go to
Exactly.
sports. I go to running the football team. I want my football team to win. I got to get this guy, and this guy.
Right.
And I got to stay in the salary cap, but I got to do this. I got to do that.
Sure.
And so, but I will say this. I was floored when I started teaching. You're right. About 95% of the teachers out there are doing it unbelievably well.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. I mean,
and they're frustrated.
And so
Very
frustrated.
frustrated.
And that's the part of it. You sit there, and it's just, at least in districts that are higher income and stuff. Because and I know when I talk to the school board, they're like, listen, we only can use this. Only 85% or something of what comes in can go to salaries, and we're at the peak, so we can't do that towards salaries. And I know people get frustrated when you talked about schools are there for reading, writing, arithmetic, and all that, but then you see the money spent on all the other stuff.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, what's our priorities? Now, I love sports and fine arts and all these things.
Fine arts, please.
I'm an artist. I taught
That's
CTE.
true. I'll give you that.
I taught graphic design, and I was, and I understood, like, I needed more cameras in my class. And they said, well, they wanted to, then all of a sudden they couldn't because of the budget. We had to get things for the science class.
Now you have to have a bake sale.
Yeah, you do. You have to do stuff. And then so we had the Education Foundation where you're raising money so teachers can do things they want to do to take kids and stuff. So anyway, it's a very, very frustrating deal. Already low salaries, already more time. I mean, because schools will ask you to do stuff, and you're not getting paid for it.
For a Rockwall teacher, let's say they've been here 10 years, quit, go to Garland, and make $30,000 more. Why? Robin?
My wife.
I just told your story, but
Autumn had taught here for 10 years. And then she went to Garland.
What does that say
she
about
left
what's
kindergarten
going on?
and went to Garland, and she makes, I think we're at about, it's not 30, but it's around $20,000 more now.
First year.
Wow. First
year in a new district.
Yeah.
So what?
And
why?
you look at the raises that you got for 10 years or for whatever, and it's embarrassing. And I'm not blaming, because the hands are tied of administration and things like that. All the rules and the red tape and all that stuff. But a district like Garland can give higher salaries because they do get Robin Hood. They get that. Sure. They get more, what do we call it, subsidies or whatever you want to call it. Because and so they have more money to play with. The Rockwalls and the McKinneys and the Prospers, they don't have that, And people automatically assume because you sit there and you look at any other industry in the world, if it's doing well, those people must be getting paid well, and that's not the same in education.
That's the assumption.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and think about, okay, so how did the lottery get approved in Texas?
Education.
All proceeds will go towards education. Okay, so where's all this money going?
Where's that?
Because I thought we'd be all fixed by now with all
right.
The
well, because if money solved all of these problems and all of the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that we're throwing at our education, wouldn't it already be solved?
Right.
Well, isn't this new $1 billion gonna fix everything?
We have a bond coming up.
The $1 billion, won't that fix it all?
It's supposed to.
I cannot say anything. That's right. But yeah.
He said.
Right?
Oh, you're playing politics.
Well, and so let me ask you. Okay, so you were in the education industry, right? So let me ask you this. All right. Are our schools and districts administration heavy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I've heard from some teachers and even some people in administration, they said, you know what, if every teacher were not to show up to work on one day, we have enough administrators to fill every classroom and still hold the administrative positions.
I don't know about that, but I would say there's a lot of, we need you to do this so somebody can check that box and make their position. Sure. I did what I was told to do, so go do it. The amount of paperwork, the amount of things you have to do just for simple things. If a kid is failing your class, Okay.
Oh, that's allowed?
It's not.
Okay.
I don't think it happens very often
No,
anymore.
because of all the things you have to go through.
No child
to
left behind.
Yeah, exactly. And so the things you have to go through, and we should. You call the parent, you email the parent, and a lot of this is on parents too. I mean, there's
Sure.
a lot of parents that are like, "Hey, they're gone for 8 hours. I ain't worried about it."
Yeah.
But there was a lot of kids, or not. I mean, I teach graphic design. You show up and you kind of do what I ask because it's all relative. It's design. It's not like math. You know, do something you think is creative, even if it's a green box, but you put effort into it, okay, you're doing good. But that's not the case now because if the kids are failing and they're mailing it in and I'm failing them, well, you got a bunch of hurdles to clear before you fail them because then you'll get threatened with, well, that kid will be back in your class next year then, you know, that kind of thing. So, and I also will throw out the lawyers. Lawyers are kind of involved with a lot of the stuff. When something goes wrong, when Junior doesn't have something go wrong, that family's lawyer's calling the school, threatening, doing stuff. And these schools are in a tough spot where all these civil liberties are being violated because even though Junior showed up late to school and failed that test, you got to give him another chance. You got to do this, you got to do that. Right. And the schools can't go in there and say, you know, nope, he failed, you're out. You're going to have hell to pay. So it's a twisted deal. And I feel for administrators. I feel for the principals.
Absolutely.
The principals, you know, we get frustrated with our principals, but the principals are just getting it from the top. And you know, they're like, I got to tell them that. I got to do that.
Trickle down frustration.
Trickle down.
Yeah,
And then they got to come to you and say,
frustration.
here's what we're doing now. You know, don't hit me too hard with the rocks and garbage.
Well,
you know?
and the parents blame the teachers.
Yes, and then it comes back to the teacher.
Right.
Yeah, and the teachers are handcuffed. I mean, I will call a parent. I used to call a parent. You email a parent. You tell them that their kids, and then once the kid does find, and they don't answer, they don't call back. Some do, but the parents. And what it comes down to is this: the kids that are doing well are the parents that are in touch with you. That's always the case. Yep. That's always the case. The kids are passing and doing great. The parents are emailing you and all. The kids that are failing, you can't get that parent. Right. You know, or struggling, and that's the reason. And so that's the catch-22 a little bit with that to try to get that kid on track. But there's a lot more for the kids' rights than the teachers' rights, and the teacher is handcuffed and cannot do a lot.
And that, like you said, a lot of them are very angry.
Very angry, and there's not a lot of ways to fight back as a teacher. And so, other than, like you said, let's not show up one day. They'll never do that. But and then the other thing I was amazed by, this is just a little different, was the way education is run is so different than any other organization in the history of man as far as capitalism and all that. It is so different. Right. I remember my wife had been a teacher forever, and I'd come home and I'd be like, they do it. And she goes, yeah, that's the way we do it. Why? Why are you doing it that way? That makes no sense. You know, so anyway.
So before we move on, anything on that topic that you haven't said that you want to say?
No, I think we're good.
I don't want to be accused of cutting my mom.
Well, I'll go to
my
this.
wife always says I cut her off before we're done, so I'm trying to learn that.
Well, that's something that y'all need to talk to your counselor about. Okay, we're not, maybe a clergyman. I don't know. Jay, whatever you need to do.
Dominus Dominus, you be all right.
That's true. All right, staying in the schools, kind of, but now the gender modification and stuff. Right. That was a big thing too. How to treat that. So, give us your. I kind of know where you're going to go. You know, I'm not Columbo. I kind of know where you're going to go with this, but tell us your stance.
How about we
on
stop the insanity? Really? I mean,
with you, 100%, 100%. It is insane. It is insane. And so, what do you want to do then to stop this? Because right now,
just stop it.
Right?
Right. Okay. But the gender people, it's a he or she or whatever it is. They're running the show right now. They get to come in and tell you what to call
Not
them.
the children, the adults.
The adults, but then once they passed on to the child comes in and they know they got the upper hand. You know, a lot of times they really do. And you're in trouble if you accidentally said he and it's a she or whatever, that kind of stuff, because now you're offensive.
I did that holding the door for a lady.
Right.
And, you know, clearly a lady. And I held the door and here you go, ma'am. I'm a sir. Yes, ma'am.
That happened to me at Starbucks. Right. And at first I felt really bad, and I was like, no.
Right.
That was a man.
It was a Phelps.
Yeah.
Just because you think, because I can identify as a 25-year-old model, then I can do that.
I can buy that.
You know,
I can buy that.
Yeah. It's easy. It's an easy step. But that's what it comes down. And this is the party, the Democrats. They keep telling us to look at the science, and yet they're just ignoring science beyond all get out with this one.
But let me ask y'all this. This is a super, super hot topic. Like, it's at the top of so many people's list. Whose lives does it really affect? In my life, my family, my friends, I don't know anyone at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know if y'all do.
Yeah.
I have no experience.
You're talking about transgendering.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But it's at the top of everyone's list, like it's happening everywhere. And I know numbers are up
Because it's
But
on
how
the
in-
media.
There you go.
It's the media, but is it also that we're fighting about our ethics and what we believe is right or wrong, but not really the reality of how many kids are wanting to go through that?
It's the make-believe perspective, right? People want to pretend. They're not happy with where they are today, so they're going to pretend to do something, be something, whatever. I mean, you can take a look at some of the things that have happened, yes, here in Rockwall, where we have furries.
Yes.
I just learned about those. Very
Right?
weird. Very weird.
I mean, come on.
A friend of mine was at a hotel. They were having a furry convention, and we got photos.
Do you know how many people are Googling furries right
Yeah.
now? They're going to be very sorry.
Furries? What the heck? No, I'll
Don't
tell
do
you,
it. Do
Camera's
not.
not showing
Yeah.
my laptop, is it? Okay.
Now, I'll tell you, I talked to a guy, a dad, and he said his kid came home from school, but he had a phone call from the administration. And they said that, little, I'm not going to say his name.
Junior.
Junior. We'll say Junior. Okay. So Junior identified as a dog today. And the dad was like, really? And they said, yeah, there was a group of kids and they wanted to do that. And so he wanted to be able to bark his answers and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I'm looking at this guy like this is some joke, right? I'm waiting for the punchline to drop. And he's like, no, seriously. They told me this was what my kid did during the day. So I look at him and I say, Junior, how was school? And he's telling me, oh, it was okay, Dad. It was fun. We had a good day. He's like, oh, okay. Well, go wash up and get ready for supper. So they get to the table, and Junior comes and sits at the table, and Dad looks at him and goes, what are you doing? And takes his dinner plate and puts it into a dog dish and puts it on the floor and says, I heard you were a dog today.
Right.
You need to eat out of the dish.
Eat out of the bowl. Yeah.
And the kid was like, what? And he goes, no. You wanted to be a dog at school, so you can be a dog here at the house, too. So go ahead. And the kids get, what? And so he starts to use his hand. He goes, dogs don't use their hands.
That's right.
So he literally treated his son like a dog. And the kid was crying while he was eating and everything. And, and I can only
cracked up to be. Was it?
I can only imagine the heartbreak this guy felt, with his son crying while he's trying
Now,
to
how old
eat.
is this kid?
He was 11.
Okay, that's a little older than I
That's
would.
too old to be
Yeah.
a dog.
Because
Yeah.
I'm saying when you're 5 and 6,
Sure, right.
you're a rocket, you're a, all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
kid,
Astronaut.
they're
But
running
11,
around, they're
11,
running around barking, doing everything. And
Right.
parents go, oh, stop
You're
it.
a dinosaur, all that
Right?
stuff. Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah.
But 11, ugh.
11. Yeah, you know better, right? So after the kid finishes eating, wash him up and everything else, and gets him up and goes, finishes homework, everything, gets ready to go to bed. Dad goes in and checks on Junior.
Yeah.
And Junior's laying in bed, and he goes, what are you doing? And he grabs a pillow, throws it on the floor, and says, dogs don't sleep on the bed. That kid came down in the morning. He was showered, teeth brushed, hair combed. He was dressed. He was ready. And he looks at him. He goes, I'm ready to go to school, Dad. And he's like, yeah, you are. And he goes, as a good little boy.
There you go. And then he licked himself and then went on out the door.
Well, but here's the point to that, right? Is that if the parents put their foot down and be the parent,
Right.
instead of allowing that nonsense
it.
to continue, right? Because I guarantee you that little boy will never, never pretend to be a dog in school
And that
again.
was the parent stepping in.
That was the parent
and,
doing
and
it.
stopping that behavior,
Right. Well, because the teachers can't do it, the administration can't do
No,
it.
no.
Right. They have to affirm.
You have to. I had kids cuss at me. You send them out, and they come right back in because there's really not a lot they can do to them, and they're right back in the room.
Can you
Right.
imagine in our day
No.
cussing out
Oh
a teacher?
no.
Well, you wouldn't be able to sit down for it.
No.
Well,
no.
I know my school. They had the Board of Education.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right.
It's like that. We need a little more of that.
Yeah.
I had a kid one time that came in. He was in Quest, which is the when kids mess up, they got to go to that school for a little bit. Comes back, and I'm kidding around with him. I'm like, "Did you break out, or are you, were you released?" And he's like, "Oh no, I'm back." I said, "Man, how'd it go with your parents?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I go, "My kid came home and did something. He's got to go to Quest. We got problems at the house." And he's like, "I didn't do anything." And I'm like, "What?" That was my biggest worry when I screwed up at school. I didn't care about as much about the principal or whatever.
Oh, yeah, it's when you got home.
Dad was going to get a hold of me, or mom, and especially Dad. That's the worry. And I don't know how much that is now. There are a lot of parents still, like our kids. They knew they were in trouble and they were going to deal with it. And so, but it is a different world. It's also a different world that even if you do something on your as a family, what you believe is right, there's a chance somebody could expose it or make it public, and then
Right.
now you got to answer for it.
Yep.
If you spank your kid, we spanked. Like I said, we spanked with ping pong paddles. Now my kids will not play ping pong.
Wait, and you also you used a race car track.
Yeah, the Hot Wheels track.
The Hot Wheels
Oh,
track.
right.
Because that was within reach. He had messed up in his room, and I just grabbed a Hot Wheels track and started going to
To this
town.
day, his kids will not play with Hot Wheels or play ping pong.
Yeah, he's 23, so if he's playing with Hot Wheels now, we got issues. We're back to the dog story, and all that. No, but yeah, it's just those kind of things that are just and everything changes. That's the other part. I want to go to the other side. Generations do change.
Sure.
And that's that fine line of things that our parents did or grandparents did. As we look back now, we go, that probably wasn't the best. But you understood why they did it then, and you understood what the time was.
Sure.
And that's the thing that does get on my nerves too, is when we go back and say George Washington did this. George Washington was in the 18th century, and the time was a whole different way of looking at things then. He wasn't looking at the way we do, and so that's a problem. But yeah, right now everything is exposed. Everything. I knew when I was teaching that if I even got remotely mad,
there you go.
phones are
Oh,
up,
yeah.
and
There
you're
it
getting
is.
video.
You're good.
You're getting
You're
video.
good.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis, let me change directions a quick. I think it's kind of interesting with your background in cybersecurity and how that relates with election fraud, meddling from domestically and even internationally, those kind of things. What and your experience in cybersecurity,
Right.
and computers taking in these votes, and we've talked.
Yes, the
pressing the
elections.
button and did I really vote? I hope it got. What's your take on election fraud and
Well, so here's the conversation that I think people need to understand. When you vote, okay, so when you go in, you voted. Have you voted yet? No?
not yet?
Okay.
I will.
Yeah,
So
you
you
don't want to go in the library. Remember that?
Right, yeah, that's right, yeah. Very true, very true. Where's the, never mind. So you go in, you say, yes, here's your ID, you do everything else, right? You get your printout, and then you have your card. And you take that card, you put it in, you go through the process. Yes, I want to vote for that person, that person, that person, that person, Dennis London, that person, that person, that person, right? And then it verifies, yes, that's correct. And then it prints it out. You look at your printout and you say, yes, that's correct. Okay. Then you take it over to the scanner where you're going to just feed it into that reader. What is that scanner actually reading?
That was my question.
The barcode.
Okay.
There's a barcode at the top.
All right.
Doesn't read the
Each
print.
one of those. Right.
It reads the barcode.
Okay.
I've been doing IT security, cybersecurity, whole 9 yards for about 33 years now. Okay, I started in 1991. I do not know how to read a barcode.
You haven't learned that language yet?
No.
So does it create a new barcode for every ballot? Is that what it's reading?
Well, based on your answers.
On my answers,
Yeah.
It's a barcode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone becomes unique.
Okay. All right.
Right. So that barcode. Now here's the thing, right? Every ballot, people say, "Oh, we can't serialize every ballot." Why not? We can serialize every dollar bill. We can serialize every $10 bill, $5 bill, $100 bill, $20 bill. We can serialize all that. Why can't we serialize ballots?
No reason. No reason.
No.
Well, it just seems more complicated now when it was supposed to be easier.
Right.
And, back in the day when you counted actual paper ballots, they were done a lot more efficient. They were done faster. If there was a close call, you went back and you counted them again.
Right.
And everybody, I don't remember anybody worried about election fraud 20 years ago. Like
Let me remind you, hanging Chad.
Right.
Oh,
right.
yeah, I forgot all about the
Yeah,
hanging
yeah.
chads.
Yeah.
So do these machines ever go on any kind of network? Or are they all off any kind of network where there could be any
I'm not sure
infiltration?
about when they're building them. I'm pretty sure that they do get connected in order to have the programming initially set for whatever is going to be going on. Yes. I overheard our elections official today telling folks, look, you don't need to worry about the remote connectivity here in Rockwall, especially so here at the library, there's only one machine that is open to the internet and connected, and that's the one that has all of the registrar in it, right? Because that has to be able to verify that, Jay Odom came in today and we scanned his card, we gave him a ballot, he voted, and that he doesn't go off to Heath to try and vote again.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So we need to make sure that we have that capability for checking that on the
Yes,
registrar.
Right.
Right. But the machines themselves, they are not connected. They're not up and they're not running. And there were some, and people will talk about, oh, well, people were hacking them from the parking lot. Right. Oh, well, these things, they have internal modems. And, and sure, okay, so we found that to be the case in some states, maybe in some parts of Texas, not here in Rockwall. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is, first off, have an intermediary perspective that reads that barcode. So I can take my ballot when I'm all set before I put it into the final machine. I run it through, it scans it, it comes back and it tells me on a printout, visual, or whatever, what my votes are. That should line up with everything that I just inserted. If it does, I can say continue or move or whatever, or take the physical and then put it into the next machine. All right. What we can also do on our election machines, because people say, oh, well, you can flash program these in a second. And you can, because it's typical EEPROM capability. So what you do is you have it with write once memory. Write once memory, literally, you only get to write it once. You can't overwrite it.
Cannot be changed.
No.
Okay.
Right? And I mean, there's even software that you can put in place, protective software, that you can lock that down. And you can track all of the audits of any attempt that's made and or any changes that were made. So those things are also in place. I mean, there are ways we could make this work. What's the cost on that? I don't know. Right? And that's where everybody's going to come to. Well, how much is that going to cost?
Right. Well, if it's for integrity of the vote, that seems pretty important.
Budget should be.
Now, and so I don't want to make it, because do you think it's easier now if somebody wanted to cheat the system? Would it be easier now with the electronic system or back in the day with the paper? Because on the paper, we go back to saying the good old days with the paper. Well, I would assume it's probably a little easier to go try to vote a few times back in the day, because there wasn't as many, people checking that and all that. You always hear about LBJ had a lot of dead people voting for him and all that stuff. Yeah. So,
I mean, we had election fraud in the 1800s.
Right. Good point.
This is not new.
Right. But what do you think it's easier to do it now, or would it have been easier then?
I think it's easier now.
Now, yeah. It just is amazing to me. Back to teaching real quick. I tell my students when they were supposed to log into the program to do their lesson, Mr. Quentin, I don't know how to do it. I'm like, you can break into NORAD with your phone right now. There's no way that you don't know how to get in to Canvas. Yeah. It was just a way. So that's what I worry about is these people that are, I'm on the computer all day, but I don't know the whole, it's like electricity. I don't know how it works. I just know when I hit that happens, and all that. But there's so many people that can you manipulate stuff. It's crazy.
While we're talking about that, and I know that's your profession, it interests me so much that, like, remember when the DNC computers got hacked? Like, pretty much anybody can get hacked.
Pretty much.
Now, who was it that got into the DNC computers?
Well, I don't remember.
Was it another country, right?
I don't remember.
But
I know.
Really,
what about the ransomware? Those guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now we apparently have picked up some of those guys. We've caught some of them apparently recently, right?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing about malware authors, and ransomware as a service. That part of the industry is fully funded by all of the cartels. Okay. Any hacking organization that's out there, they have the Russian mafia behind them. They have the Chinese triads behind them. They have all of these things behind them, and they are actively working to try and take over whatever they can take over.
Wow.
And so anyone that actually authors these things, they can make a fortune on just writing one piece of program. That's it. Just you write that, you are golden and set for life. And some of these guys, they'll write 5 or 6 pieces of malware, or they'll write malicious software, or they'll actually write the ransomware code or whatever. And when they write it, because I know some black hats and some gray hats and some white hats, and so the black hats are the malicious, the white hats are the ones that go after them, and the gray hats are the guys that kind of play in the middle. And you usually find them working for the government.
We take black hats and make them gray hats, right? A lot of times.
Gray.
Yeah. Well, because and now some. I don't think, I'm trying to remember now where it was, they were saying that they're going to start allowing some organizations to do what we call hackback. So if somebody is trying to attack you and hack into you, based on where you are, what your profession is, and your certifications, you'll be able to hack back the attacker.
Okay, I had too many tacos yesterday, and I had a hack back. And that's what I thought you were going with. And I was like, that's what. Okay, real quick, you with the cybersecurity and the computers and all that. I want to go now to a personal thing. I always go to movies. Like, what is the best movie that kind of encapsulates that? Like, I think of Enemy of the State. Those kind of movies where they show all the stuff and how the government can watch it and all that stuff. Is there any movie that comes to mind?
And when you see those hackers, how real is that to reality?
Because you always see them and 2 minutes, they're like, yeah, we're in.
It's like, we're in. And it starts downloading.
Right, they got
put
cameras.
it on a USB stick.
You watch some of those TV programs, and they're sitting there, they're like, okay, so we have to get into the Pentagon. Hold on, I'm through the first firewall. Okay, all right, now I'm inside. Now I just got to get through the network. Oh, that was easy. No.
And they're always 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
So is there any movie that's close to realistic on those things? I know we have to dumb down it, or dumb down. What do you call it?
Dumb down.
Dumb down it because you got to make a movie. You don't want to go into detail.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
There were a couple that were close. And I can't think of the names of them right now. I'd have to get back to you guys on that one.
Okay.
But there were a couple
You've got
where,
a few that were.
yeah, and you're looking, you're going, well, that's actually plausible.
Okay.
That could probably work.
Let me backtrack. We talked a little bit about gender modification.
Why are we going back to that?
Well, there was something I wanted to
weird.
ask you. I have nothing to tell you. There's no announcement.
This podcast is taking a turn.
Do you need a refill?
Y'all may need one. Y'all may need one. And that's
We're drinking water every
Right, it's water.
That's right.
Yeah.
The you've mentioned, and it's on some of, I think, on your website, the obscenity exemption.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good call.
The obscenity
What is
exemption clause.
exempt? Tell us about this.
Interestingly
And
enough,
Jay
I
wants to know
have.
where to go to see.
I just need to check this out to
Right.
make sure.
Interestingly enough, I happen to have the bill that I wrote in front of me here. And so,
Okay.
wow.
And we've got a copy here.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. You do. So the obscenity exemption clause, I mean, we can kind of read through that, right? So relating to the affirmative defenses to prosecution for certain offenses involving material or conduct that is obscene or otherwise harmful to children. Okay, so what we're doing in this, and this is my version of it, and so where you see the strikeouts, that's what I want to take out. Okay, so whenever you see a piece of legislation that's going to come in, and up on the top where it has CSHB, that's committee substitute for House Bill, is what that stands for, and then that was 1164 by London Dennis and Sanders Lynn. So this gal, Lynn Sanders, she had another piece that we needed to actually combine both of these into the one, because in Patriot Academy we had a 300-word limitation. And so I was like, you guys, I can't get a good piece of legislation through 300 words.
300 words.
So-
It's hard to write a paper on.
Right? Yeah. So they said that we neted to figure out a way to combine. So I talked to my mentors down there, and we actually got it combined and worked on through there. Now, what this does is, and if you can see where underneath of this, where it talks about Section 43.24C of Penal Code, that's the Texas Penal Code, where it's the sale, distribution, or display of harmful material to a minor. What we want to do is, it is an affirmative defense for prosecution or to prosecution under this section that the sale, distribution, or exhibition was by a person having a bona fide judicial, law enforcement, or legislative, and we're striking scientific, educational, government, or other similar jurisdiction. Okay, so what happened in here, you can still teach sex ed. All right, that's not an issue. But you cannot, under the guise of education, show a book like Let's Talk About It. You can't give a kid a porno. You can't show a porn during your class. Because right now, the way the Texas law is it sits without these changes, they could. They could bring in a Hustler, a Penthouse, they could bring in Maxim or any of these things and put it in the classroom under the guise of education. And people say, no. That's what's happening.
It's there.
And so why aren't teachers going to jail that do this? All right. We know that the one up in, what was it, McKinney just recently, or Plano, right? So, okay, well, why aren't they going to jail? Well, no. They're just being shifted. They're going from here over to here. We're just shuffling them around. But they still have their job. They still have their teaching credentials. How is that possible? Okay. This puts the teeth back in the law. Now, this change came about in 1973. He was a freshman House rep, John Whitmire, who, as you may know,
I know the name.
You know the name. You know why you know the name?
No.
He just retired from the Senate after 50 years and is now the mayor of Houston.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
really?
Okay.
He introduced this.
Okay.
And that was in his freshman term. So, of course,
Started out with a bang.
yeah, right. Woo, hello.
Wow.
So there were
Nice choice of words there, Jim.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, there were
No pun intended.
Wow.
So there were 4 bills that were introduced during this last legislative session to actually repeal the obscenity exemption clause, and none of them went anywhere. Right. So this piece of legislation, the way that it's written, and we've gone through and we take it out on both. And the second portion of this, underneath, and I think it's going to be under Section 4. if you were to zoom in and scroll down, amended to read as follows: harmful material, because I'm looking for where it has performance. So I think that's on the second page. There you go. And then we'll zoom in. Oh, no, where are you going? Come on.
Come on, Tyler. You're doing good.
He's doing good.
Yeah.
He's doing good. All right, there we go. Knowing material is. And then I believe it's, number 3 there. He hires, employs, or uses a minor to do or accomplish or assist in doing or accomplishing any of the acts prohibited in subsection B1 or B2. And now it is affirmative defense to prosecution, and we're striking that part out, right? You see where that is? But that's actually where you have the child perform those sexual acts.
Whoa.
So it's not just the presence of the material, but it's the performance of.
What on earth?
Right?
I mean, it doesn't seem real.
No, it doesn't. And the first time that I heard this, I was like, wait a minute. No, that can't be.
Something's off.
Right?
Yeah.
Either I'm reading it wrong, it's been interpreted to me wrong, you're making this up, right? No, this was the way that the penal code was written and amended. And I said, nope, I want to repeal this.
Let me ask you, why do you think it was written like that? What is the end
So
goal?
from my understanding, I wasn't here in 1973. Actually, in 1973, I was grand old 5 years old. So.
Oh, there you go.
But in 1973, where this was coming in, a lot of states adopted this type of issue, okay? And I say issue, this clause, whatever. And it comes around from, I believe it was in the 30s or 40s, Alfred Kinsey, Dr. Kinsey, was doing these studies.
Sex guy.
The sex guy. There you go, right? You know, the
I
sexuality
just
of
kind of
He
heard
was
of
a,
him.
scientist.
Yeah.
A scientist.
Yeah,
so-
scientist.
Yeah, okay. He authored papers on the sexuality of man, the sexuality of women, and what he would do is he would have orgies, and based off of the age groups of people involved, and they would do all these weird studies. There's a documentary called Mind Polluters, and if you haven't seen it, don't eat before you do, but go ahead and watch it. And they talk about Alfred Kinsey and the studies that he did.
In the name of science.
So, but this is where this depravity,
Yeah.
this
But in the name of science.
in the name of science, right?
Is it a coincidence? 73 is also legalization of Roe versus Wade. It's this whole sexual revolution
I didn't
thing.
think about
Sure.
that.
Yeah, and that's where it's just all, again, the whole snowball thing.
Right.
Well, if we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
do the abortions, we ought to be able to do. And we got to teach the kids how this
Yeah.
works.
Free love, no
Free love, yeah,
consequences.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
start breaking up the families. Let's
Right.
make sure that, because what was rampant in, obviously the free love and the free sex and all this other stuff, and people wanting to do whatever they wanted, and then you started having more and more, because before the 70s, I don't think it was really common that you had single mothers.
Right, it wasn't as common, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, right.
You know, and when the young women
By choice.
right,
Yeah.
and so when the young women were found to be pregnant, and they were in school, they would all of a sudden be taken to a boarding school,
Sure.
or they would go off to finishing school for a year, and then they would come home, and they'd be completely changed. And people are like, "Wow, boarding school really changed you." Yeah, well, that's because she gave birth, and that kid's up for adoption.
Something happened.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So it was-
Yeah. Well, and you were adopted.
Yeah, that's exactly
right?
how it happened with me.
And my mom was adopted.
Okay.
Okay, and so you pretty much the same process there. So
And that's the way it was. They
Yeah.
just sent you off. And I remember I wrote my biological mother and asked her about that. And she had 2 kids. And she's like, just told them I had to go be with my parents for a while.
Yeah.
Then came back and nobody knew
Is
any
she
different.
still alive?
I believe so. I hadn't had contact with her in about 10 years. It's a weird deal. We don't need to go into that.
All right,
Okay.
so-
But anyway.
So tell me. No, I'm kidding.
Dr. J is here for you.
How does that make you feel?
That light's getting hot. Okay, so I want to go on now to your involvement with the True Texas Project.
Yes.
What is that?
So True Texas Project is about educating the citizenry. Okay, so we want to be able to have citizens educated on how to hold their elected officials accountable.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Okay, so you learn about, and I gave you some links to some sites where we start talking about with Transparency USA,
Right.
and
That
we
was cool.
talk about
Which
these.
are actual, legitimate,
Absolutely.
real data and information.
Yes.
Which most of the voters do not know about.
Right.
I would think not. No. I mean, you see all the donations. You see who's donated, who has the most.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Which,
Well, but you can also dig into the actual the PAC itself, the organization, and see who's donating into that PAC.
So it's easy. It would be easier to hide in a PAC and not get your name listed as a
Right. Well, because if all you see, like all those mailers that you're talking about, right? Oh, this came from this PAC or this organization. They all have to register. So you go into Transparency USA, you pull it up and you look at it and you go, okay, tell me about this one. And then you start seeing who is involved. Is it maybe a union, or is it another group or an organization, or are there a bunch of individual donors? Right.
Pull that up, because I really want to show all the voters out there. I think this is fascinating. So, and we're going to put the webpage how everybody can look at this. But like, let's just say for this race,
Go into the search and pick up, pick any of the PACs that you want to look at. Well, like any of them that were on these mailers. Just pick one, and
let's go with.
I think that one's an actual Holland.
Yeah, it's a Holland one. That's a cool logo, though.
Yeah. Like my hat,
I do.
right? Remember him saying that?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
called you. I wasn't going to say that.
No, yeah. Well, so I mean, it's just Texas with 33.
So I have done work for you officially then, because that's
See, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So there you go.
I didn't go to college. You found
Okay.
out.
Well, you have the was it the AFC and that one? I keep forgetting what it's. That much Justin Holland. All right, I'll tally this during the broadcast. Vamp.
Okay.
So
Is it back to singing? No, I'm only kidding.
You were singing for us.
You brought all
Very
the
nice.
Holland ones. You didn't bring any PAC ones. Here we go.
That's just today's.
Texas
That's just
Texas
today's
prosperity PAC.
Okay, Texas prosperity.
Yeah, this is just today.
It is.
All right, let's see what he pulls up here.
Can spell. Look at that. He's already stressed out.
On the spot.
Over
man.
there squinting. Need my glasses?
Yeah, keep your
He's in the dark.
start next to the G and the H. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Texas
Okay.
Association of Property. Oh, that one's property tax professionals.
Well, but it's still a PAC. So we
Okay,
can kinda
sure.
see.
Okay, so
you
this
can
is
look
how
at
it looks.
All right, so you can see the overview of it, and if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the top contributors to it, and then you can see who their top payees are.
So scroll in there and let's see who those top guys are. And this is not one that has to do with our election. We're just
Right.
using it as a
Yeah,
sample.
we just grabbed one.
So for instance, these are small timers.
Right. That's
Yeah.
You have a 10 grand guy over here. That's the most.
Big
It's-
spender.
Well, that's a payee.
That's Nancy.
Oh, that's a payee.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they gave $5,000 to Nancy Boudreau. They gave $5,000 or $10,000 to
10 grand
Nancy
to
Boudreau.
Nancy,
$5,000 to Hugh Shine. $5,000 to Dade Phelan. $2,788 to Stonebriar Country Club. So, but you can see all of their payees. You can see their contributors. You can see how much they're giving. And if you want to take a look at, like, you could scroll into any of those individual people, and you could see who else they contribute to.
How does I do a ton? That's what I've been doing lately. I'm wore out.
You haven't slept in 2 nights.
No,
Is that right?
it's been
Literally.
crazy. But I've been doing a ton of mailers. I work for a company that's based out of Austin and is also out of South Carolina, and they send me the work from all their candidates. So a majority of the work I do when I get the info they want in it is from a PAC. I rarely am doing a mailer for an actual candidate. I will do those. Now, when I work locally here, it's always candidates.
Right.
But for that, business, it's all PACs. How do you, do you get in touch with PACs and say, can a candidate go to a PAC and say, hey, man,
I imagine you could.
yeah.
I don't.
You don't do it.
No. And so, if you, and I saw that he had my finance up, I have one PAC that has
Let's take a look
donated
at
to
that.
me. And they won't, I don't even think they're going to show up in there because they're not my top contributors. They're you'd have to scroll down because they're only $100.
Oh, go to 8. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
there was $1. Somebody gave you $1.
Yeah.
That was me.
That was you.
Every dollar counts.
Right?
Every dollar counts.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's true. Every dollar does count. So
It does.
Yeah, it's a check for $100. I don't know.
I got work to do tonight, but after that, I'm going to start looking at this.
There it is. Conservative Women of Northwest Texas PAC, $100.
$100. Look
Okay.
at that.
Yep.
And that's your only PAC.
That's my only
And
PAC.
did they contact you, or just happen to get them?
They just sent me a check.
They see a check.
So
That's
where do we see the the total amount of contribution to your campaign?
In the overview.
Yeah, right up there.
Yeah.
I'm curious about.
Well, that's
all-
cash on
can we-
hand,
can
total
we look at-
contributions,
let's
total
look at all 3
expenditures.
candidates. I'm curious.
Yeah.
So we've got for you total contributions
Mm-hmm.
$53,306.
Total expenditures $46,235.
Okay. So you're still in the black.
I know that when that's the only clients I ever have that are like, you got to invoice me now, like when it's done, because they need
Oh,
to post
Yeah,
it.
we do.
Yeah, and so all the other clients are like, yeah, take your time, and
Well,
all
and
that.
we're getting to the point now. Next couple days, we're going to have to start doing dailies.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, here.
Wow.
So we pulled up. Whoa, Justin Holland.
Yeah.
500. Squish that in. I'm blind. $529,066.
Jay's getting a little technical when he says squish it in.
See, wait,
Squish
so
that in.
Pinch and
so when we
squish.
see total expenditures higher than contributions, that means their own money.
Could be their own money. I don't think we're looking at overall expenditures. I think we're just looking at what he had for this race, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And we got to be fair. Let's do Katrina's.
And Katrina.
Right.
So that's about 10 times more than you.
Yep.
Wow.
PIE.
Oh wait, does it tell the top contributors?
It will. It'll tell top contributors. It'll tell everything. See, and this is where in Transparency USA that people actually get to see what's happening, who's doing what, where you're getting your money. Because I get people that ask me all the time, well, if a PAC donates to you, are you beholden to them?
Right.
Right.
That's my next
That's-
question.
That's the thought.
Right?
yeah.
Are there strings
They own
attached?
you.
And sometimes they will come at you, and they may approach you ahead of time. And I tell this story. You heard, well, actually, I don't think I told it at the forum. When I was down in Austin, and it was we were down there for one of the Capitol prayers, and we were going through doing a whole bunch of things before then. But then we had a big prayer in the rotunda, and then as we were leaving, and it was about 9:30 at night, and we go out the east doors, and we're heading out towards where the buses are. And once we got off of the Capitol property, this guy came kind of rushing through the crowd, and he comes up and he taps me on the elbow, and he says, "Mr. London, can I have a word?" We're not wearing name tags.
Mm-hmm.
We're not wearing badges. Nobody. I mean, some of us know who we are because of our association with each other. This kid wasn't even on the bus. He wasn't part of our group. I don't know where he came from. And he grabs my elbow and says, "Can I talk to you a minute?" And I was walking with two people from the State Republican Executive Committee, and I said, I'll be with you in a minute. And we walked over, and we're talking, and they stopped, and they were within earshot. So I have verification of this. And he starts in with, if we were to donate $100,000 towards your campaign, would you vote against school choice?
Oh, wow.
And
Just flat out, straight out.
straight out. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
He says, well, how about 150,000?
You're like, add a couple zeros, we might get.
So I said no. And he said, well, what if we
What we
raised
can find out here is Jay can be bought, but go ahead.
Yeah, do not elect me
Yeah,
for
yeah.
anything. So.
yeah. So he makes one more offer. Okay, what if we bumped it to a cool $250,000, $250,000? Would you
This
vote
is a
against school choice?
negotiation.
Yeah, and he literally was working me, and I said, no, I am not for sale.
But is that illegal for him to say that to you?
If we were on the Capitol grounds, yes, but
Okay.
we're off
Okay.
the Capitol grounds, so you know. And I don't know what group he was with. I don't know if it was an individual. I don't know if he was sent as someone to, hey, let's go see if this guy
Wait,
is.
So if a politician were to answer, okay, deal, did he just commit a crime off the ground?
I don't
think
know.
so.
No,
You're kidding me.
no.
Why? You can do whatever you want. You're running
Right.
for office. You can say whatever you want.
But you are admitting that you are being paid.
What do you think
to
lobbyists
vote.
are doing?
Right?
I guess I still like to believe that our government is good.
Well,
Am I the idiot?
oh wow, Jay. But I mean, that's what lobbyists do. To
I mean, I'm not
elected
an idiot. I
officials.
know
Yeah.
that goes on. I just
Right.
didn't know it was so blatant. I thought you'd meet in a smoky back room and.
Oh, I'm,
you know
I'm
what-
sure some of them do, but I mean, at this point, I was a candidate.
We're not allowed to smoke anymore, Jay. There's no smoking back rooms.
I like the smoky
I
black
know.
rooms. You
Well,
know?
like the movie Lincoln back in the 1860s,
Yeah.
when he's trying to get the 13th Amendment passed, they're just running after guys trying to get them to switch their vote and
Right.
promising them. I mean, this
Yeah.
happened since it began.
So if someone were to, I know this wouldn't happen, but if someone were to say, we heard that you were offered $200,000 to vote for school choice, and you took it, and the politician said, that's right, I did, and that's why I voted that way.
Yeah.
No crime committed.
No crime.
No.
Well, there's something wrong with that, if you ask me. Am I?
Well,
Am I
there-
right?
That's it's a morality thing, but
more than
immorality is not illegal. You know,
The
I mean, some
legislation
of
that
it is,
affects
but-
my family can be
Sure.
purchased.
Sure, if that,
That should
person
be
is not,
illegal.
if that person is
What
not
do you think
upstanding.
happens every day?
Right.
You're
Look at
spoiling
DC.
my
Look at what happens in
But I
DC.
Do you
know
think
it-
Jimmy Stewart is still in D.C. right now? Mr. Smith goes to Washington, and he's
But
up
well,
there
I think
filibuster.
this would
But
be a
that
wonderful
doesn't-
thing.
but
We could
that's-
have a great time.
But that doesn't blow your mind that that's in no way for a politician to say, yes, I was offered $250,000 to vote for school choice.
They
I
probably
didn't
won't.
agree with it. My constituents didn't agree with it, but I took it because I need the money, and I voted that way.
I don't
You
think
don't-
any of them would admit it.
They
No,
never. But I'm
no.
just saying the fact
You would
that
lose
there's
the next
no.
time.
Right.
But there's nothing. No law was broken.
Why do you think there's so many when these people go look back on their opponents, mostly on these national when they were running for president, and it's like these weird. Man, I can't believe that Biden voted for that, or he did this, or even a Republican did that. I guarantee you, a big part of it was they needed some money. That's not as big a deal to me. Yeah, I'll vote for that. You know.
And Transparency USA, you can look up who's donating to whom and look at how they're voting.
Okay, so we got the 53,306 for Mr. London, 10 times that for Mr. Holland, and we were going to look at the donors.
Well, now he brought up Katrina's there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's Katrina's.
Okay, then we'll look at the 124,483.
Mm-hmm.
So she's still more than double you, but
way behind. Justin has
but
the most.
Justin
Yeah,
is,
but I would think also an incumbent.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
he's
not out of the
he's
norm.
going to have the dollar advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's been there a while, and he's got a lot of
Friends
skins on the wall too. When
Yep.
you're an incumbent, you get to show what you've done. It's hard
Yes.
for you.
Right.
You haven't officially done anything yet. I
Right.
mean, you can tell us what you're doing. It's outstanding, but something that is on record as far
Right.
as in Congress.
So that
you don't
brings
have
in the
that
money.
yet. Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, because now
It's a
you
game.
have things that you've done.
it's a game.
I'm glad that Jay's just now figuring out.
No,
that-
I mean, you know this stuff goes on, and I'm
Yeah.
not an idiot. But
Right.
I know.
But the thought of it being so really within the political world, your world,
Sure.
and people you know and see.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people that are politicians that have made a mistake if they've gotten a girl pregnant, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that are being blackmailed on those issues. Hey, by the way, we know about.
What we see on television, like House of Cards, is not that far from the truth. That's my hunch.
Right.
You know, we've got this on you. You're going to do that, or this comes out, and all of that stuff. I mean, gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay,
I don't
so-
know why you
and
want to get into this.
Well,
Dennis.
and when I tell people about this stuff, to your point, a lot of them are like, no.
So I'm not the only idiot.
You're not an idiot.
You're not an idiot at all.
Well,
But
I mean,
you don't want to have the idea or even accept the idea that this is happening.
we call it dirty politicians, but is it dirty if it's not against the law?
It's still dirty.
It
You
needs
can do
to be
things that are
against-
dirty.
but it should be against the law. Do you think it should be against
like
the
if
law?
I go out there and lie about you and say some stuff about you,
That's
not,
slander.
that's
Yes,
not
it is.
against the law.
Well, I don't know if
because-
it's against the law, but I can sue you.
Sure, and we can see how that goes. But there's
Depending
no
on
law
depending on the
against it.
level of defamation and slander. So,
Right,
yeah.
right. But it's not that is this, and you got to go to jail. It's not that. And so we can all do immoral things. Obviously, there's some immoral things that are against the law, but the gossip, the lies,
Yeah,
the
but I just feel like the votes that affect my family should be more sacred than that. It's not illegal to purchase a vote that affects my family.
and I'm sorry. Well,
No,
I mean,
no.
we're
it-
going
remember
on, we're
these-
turning this
like
into a
it-
personal tangent. I'm sorry.
But I'm 100% with you
This
because
goes back to right before you got here, a little bit before you got here. We were talking about how sometimes these things take a turn.
Besides, that he's always late.
Well, no, and in here we talk about yucking it up and having these conversations and everything. And I said to you, if we were to meet in a bar, we would still yuck it up and we would be able to have these conversations,
Yes,
right? And so here we are, we're having this conversation.
Right.
Now it's all three of us here,
right.
and however many thousands and hopefully
Oh
even
yeah,
more, right?
we're getting good numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll get some numbers.
So, but this goes to the point of these are the topics that a lot of people want to know.
Exactly. That's
Right?
why we want to do this.
Exactly.
This is exactly why we want to
And
do
these
this.
conversations are important, not just here, but also in people's living rooms, in their kitchens, and maybe at the bar,
Or at the
right?
Well, we talked about this before. When Trump was one of the things that everybody loved about Trump that did vote for him was when he's on those debates. It's like, all these people are bought. I'm not bought.
And that's
I have
what
the
bought
money.
Right.
And people want to hear that.
But
you
even
know?
in your situation, that was a little over the top audacious.
Oh, that
from,
was.
from the norm. Okay.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
I
And when I said no, I can't be bought, he turned and he pulled out a little notepad and he started writing something and he walked away.
yeah.
You got
He did-
put on a list.
He did not go towards the buses, so obviously wasn't with us, right? He's walking down the
Sure.
street, and so I turn and I walk over, and those two SREC people are like, wow,
So he didn't ask you about wanting to turn our country into a monarchy. He didn't bring
no,
that
no,
up
he
at
he
all.
didn't bring
Wow.
that up. I
All
don't
right.
know. So
Yeah. there you
Okay,
go.
so we've got this is the list of top donors.
for
So 50 smackers from
for Katrina, yeah,
who is that? The Texas.
Texas United for Conservative Majority PAC.
Don't know.
So do you remember what was the Defend Texas Liberty organization?
I remember that.
Don't
So-
lie. You
No, I
lie.
remember that. I follow some of this, Jay.
Right.
I don't come in and think that everybody's just, all happy in Congress.
The folks who got together and provided the money behind some of the organizations that met with Nick Fuentes and that whole issue behind there with all that stuff. So
Yeah.
those are the guys that have that pack.
So these are not donors that are giving
Well, you
hundreds of thousands
Hey,
of dollars.
click Texas United for conservative.
But is there a limit that they can give? In there a
Now,
limit?
now look, it'll tell you who's.
Okay, so here's our
Oh,
1.3
whoa.
million.
That tells you who contributes to that pack.
1.2 million. That's the same amount of money it would take for Rodney Webb to jump naked into the Bass Pro Pond.
That is right.
Yeah. If we could get them people to divert their funds.
Which would be a good
And go
use
to
of
Rodney.
the funds, I believe. Okay, we didn't
so
contact that pack.
So that's the power of this right in here is that you can take that information, you can click on any of those packs, and you can see who's donating, how much they're donating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So family empowerment, you can take a look who all is in there, how much are they in it for, and then you can see who they're paying. So you can find out.
Very transparent.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw Dade Phelan on there. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about him, the speaker.
For Katrina's?
No, it's for Justin's.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on Phelan?
I can't wait for Covey to defeat him.
Have you met Mr. Phelan?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
What would you say to Mr. Phelan if he walked in here right now?
I'd be cordial.
Would you offer him a drink?
I'd be cordial. You know what? You okay? He almost did a spit take over there. So here, this goes to your point before about, we can all get together and we can be cordial and having to work with people and everything. We can't maintain a hostility towards each other, right? And regardless of, you'll hear people say that as Christians, we have to love our brothers and sisters. And yes, I agree with that. Okay. As a Catholic, as a Christian, I do believe that we do need to do that. We have to extend and we have to get along. But there comes a point where you reach a person and they just won't listen. Okay. So you don't have to associate with them. You can choose to not be around them. If I'm sitting somewhere, if I go and I have dinner at a restaurant and I'm there with my wife and we're having a great dinner and they bring somebody in I do not agree with and sits at the table next to me, okay, I don't have to engage them. If they continue to engage me or try to engage me or start harassing me or what have you, I'll just pay my bill and leave. Okay, if they're engaging me and I want to engage them and it's somebody that we can have a conversation with, I'll maintain the cordial. I will be nice. I'll be polite. Why can't we do that?
I agree.
We don't have that enough going on in today's society. It's either you are with me or you are against me. And if you're against me, you're dead to me.
Right.
Have
And
either-
then I was going to bring up the Christian thing.
Right.
Because even Christ says, when he tells his disciples, go to the town, talk to them, and once you realize they're not going to, you shake the dust
off your
feet and
sandals
go
and
to the
move on.
next
Yep.
one. Yeah. So,
Have either of you lost friends over political views?
Of course.
yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Long-term friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
Family members.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's sometimes you go to a family, get together and okay, we can't talk this, and this, and if it does come up.
But there's heated discussions, and then there's I can't associate. We had a good friend that said that she did not feel safe around any Trump follower.
Right.
She worried about her safety.
Right.
That was just hurtful and crazy.
Well,
but that's what's happening. That's right.
And a lot of that is that's the victim thing coming out with the liberals, with the if you can't win the debate, well then let's go another direction and let's say that you're making my life dangerous or something like that. And I think that's
which she had no fear for herself from us.
Right.
To say that.
Right.
That's a whole other.
That's a whole new segment.
Yeah, that's next part 2.
Yeah.
That's what we're going.
Right. Tyler keeps digging in. He's going from one screen to another. Right. He's like, look at this.
He's making notes.
All right, so let's talk about your opponents. We did this with all the other two candidates too. I want a pro and con, or a positive, negative, whatever you want for each one. We'll start with Justin. What's a positive about Justin?
I've only had few conversations with him, and I think he's a good guy. I really do.
Yes.
I think he means well, and he's done a good job for the most part. There are some things that I just don't agree with.
Would you say unfairly attacked?
I would say that for some things he's been unfairly attacked.
Well, I keep coming back to the mailer where he wants Sharia law and all that stuff.
Come on.
That's a little unfair.
Yeah, I know. That's unfair.
That was part. I believe that was part of an omnibus
Not a
bill
little, but
where they
yes.
just had a ton of stuff
He
in it.
explained that. Yeah, but they hit him. Yeah.
Well, and
That's a tough deal.
So how many other good reps, right, actually voted for that? And now they're all going to be slammed with the same thing. They voted for Sharia law.
If there's one guy in the world I know does not want Sharia law, it's Justin Holland.
probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's like, so yeah, those are the things that I think it's been extremely unfair.
So I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's all right. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious if you felt some of that was unfair. So.
All right, and then obviously you're running, so you have some cons,
I do, and I'm trying to think of how. Somebody said it once was that a lot of reps will go down there and they'll get used to the guacs and the chip and guac, right?
Ooh, I like that.
And so they get accustomed to what's going on and how that happens. But I don't know if that necessarily was the case with him. I just think that he isn't listening enough to what we've asked. And that comes true when you start looking at, and I'll point to the legislative priorities. And a lot of people say, oh, you focus too much on legislative priorities. Well, some of those were banning Democrat chairs. We already know his stance on that. School choice, we know his stance on that, right? We wanted the abolish abortion, okay? And we did get some great ground on that, but are we truly to the abolishment of abortion? We're not fully there yet. Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. We want to protect our Second Amendment rights. We want to empower parents, So there's a lot of work to be done. And I just don't think he's been making the right progress.
Okay.
And right or wrong, and I know there are a lot of people out there that are going to vote for him, and they're going to say, no, he's done a great job. And on some things, sure, he's done a good job, right? But on the ones that he's done wrong, and this is why I'm running, I look at, coming from my experience of living through the fall and decline of the Republican county and state that used to be California.
Is that the Reagan years?
Yeah,
Reagan
was my first commander-in-chief when I joined the
There you
military,
go,
right?
There you go, yeah.
So it was Reagan, Bush, and then Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman, Monica Lewinsky.
That was a great era.
Wow, that was actually fun, to watch all that. I mean,
It was top news
Right.
for
It was us,
a
it
week.
was.
Yeah. What was it? The blue dress or red dress?
it was a
or-
blue dress.
Yeah, the blue dress. Yeah.
That I
Which,
hear.
how smart of that woman.
Yeah. Well, we're just going off on a tangent.
Yeah,
again.
now here we go again.
Okay.
But so back to this point, right? So what happened was you kept seeing it fall more and more to the left, a little by little, and it was people that were thinking they were voting the right way and they were doing the right things that were Republicans that were giving control to the Democrats. And once they had the majority, they just flipped the switch and moved forward, and they just left all the Republicans behind. And everybody that said, well, you were going to work with us, they're not working with you now. When they got the supermajority, oh, hold on to your socks. I mean, it went full on crazy because now people remember, what did Nancy Pelosi say when she said, if you want to find out what's in the bill, what did she say after that? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
You have to vote for it.
Oh, that's right. That's
Right?
right. That's right.
If you want to find out what's in the bill,
vote for
you
it.
have to vote for it. Did you know that in California, some of the pieces of legislation,
crazy.
yeah, right. But some of the pieces of legislation, they'll write a summary and they'll write a little bit of the intro, and they don't have the full body worked out yet, but that they put it up for a vote because they have a supermajority.
And they know it's going to get passed anyway.
They know it's going to get passed, so they can just fill in the blank later.
Yeah.
Well, I
So that's my fear.
Okay.
Is that we are headed that direction, and granted, that may be further down the road than what it is, but today's Democrats are communists. They're socialists. They're far off on the left. If you think about it, we mentioned LBJ, and if you talk about want to talk about Kennedy, all right, a Kennedy Democrat is today's conservative.
Yeah, it's a Republican. Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's the Overton window has made that much of a shift, and any of us that are on the actual conservative side, and I'm a constitutional conservative Republican, so I'm considered an extremist.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? Because I believe in the Constitution, because I believe in lower government or smaller government, lower taxes. I believe in more personal responsibility, personal freedoms. I'm an extremist?
Dangerous.
Oh,
Do you go back to, this is where I get frustrated with the role of government and where we've expanded it to now, where I'm a graphic designer. I like art, but I don't think the government should be having funds for art, and things like that, where they have the, I forget what you call it, but you have, and other things where this is like, the government's here to protect us,
That's just
make
big
sure the
government.
roads are all built, make
Big
sure, all
government.
the basic stuff, and not expand into these
what's the
other
fundamental
things.
role of government?
Well, it's to protect us.
Protect
right?
life, liberty, and property.
Yeah, life, liberty, and property. Yeah, and
That's
so,
the fundamental role of government. That's it.
But now we're off to all these other things, and you can talk about the stuff that And some of it we like that we've, Social Security. There was no Social Security. Then FDR brings in Social Security, and that becomes this.
It was supposed to be a temporary
It was a
guarantee for the
stopgap.
retirement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it was a temporary thing.
Yeah.
It was temporary, and it's still here 100 years later, or whatever it was.
Same thing
80
with the
years
federal
later.
income tax. That was
Yes.
supposed to be temporary.
Right.
What's your thought on the income tax?
Income tax. So we do not need a state income tax.
Oh,
let's start with that, right? I mean, there are people that are like, well, the way you're going to want. No. I am fully against a state income tax. Oh, well, if you want to get rid of, property taxes, how are we going to be able to afford the things? Hey, you know what? Maybe, I don't know. Watch what we're spending. I'm just saying, right? From a federal perspective, our taxes, we're taxation without representation is theft, right? It's legal plunder. Okay, so we need to make sure that whoever gets elected into a position is actually representing us and representing us well, and our tax dollars are going to work. Where are our tax dollars going now? Ukraine.
Right. And that's the things. That's
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to stop some of the insanity, because they're sitting there telling us, and I say they, and I'm going to specifically say Washington, D.C. at this point. They're telling us that we don't have the money to take care of veterans. Okay, we have too many homeless veterans. We can't take care of them. But what do they want to do? They want to attribute billions of dollars towards the illegals. They will empty out a hotel and just camp all of these illegals in there. But they can't do that for our veterans.
Or you look at the VA hospital, too. That's still the big issue.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, now I just read something, and I should have read the entire article, but I read part of it, and it said that they were going to allow illegals to have access to VA benefits.
Unbelievable. Well, it's the votes, right? I mean, that's what the Democrats
That's all.
are.
It's
votes. And
Well,
they
and
know that they can.
Here's the sad part about that, right? Most of the people, so for at least the Hispanics coming from Mexico or Guatemala, Salvador, these areas, right? They're coming over. They have good Christian morals and ethics. If you tell them that they align with the Republican Party, they'll vote Republican.
Yeah.
They won't come over just because you're giving me this and you're a Democrat. They're
Right.
going to look at more than just that one piece. They're going to look at the overall thing. Okay, so what about my kids? What about the education? What about our family? What about because if you start telling a lot of these immigrants that, hey, your little boy can be a girl, they're going to go nuts on you.
That's right. What do you think about the I've always been, and I know you are, and I'm sure you are, obviously we want immigrants and we want you to go through the legal process. That's our whole country is based on this. But the legal process takes forever.
Yep.
I've never understood how we can't fast track that, why we can't do things to make it
They just
easier.
threw billions of dollars at the processing. We have the money down there now to be able to bring in more people to process, because that's where a lot of this money is going. It's going to the processing of immigration. All right, that means that we can continue with our border wall, we can continue with the concertina wire, we can continue with the floaties in the Grand, right? So we can do all of this,
Right.
and we can have all that. Now, okay, is it a humanitarian issue? Sure, it's a humanitarian issue. We know there are people coming here for actual reasons beyond just I want to go and get my whatever the excuse is,
My
right?
free stuff.
You're right.
Yeah.
And you have all these organizations that meet them in Mexico and give them a brand new backpack, give them brand new clothes and shoes, and they outline where you want to go, or they get met up with the cartel, and the cartel says, okay, for this much money, we'll put you in this state, we'll have you go do this, we'll do this, and then they put those little wristbands on them, right? And you heard about that, right? Senator Cruz talked about those wristbands,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
and some other folks as well, but that's where this whole thing goes into. It is a humanitarian issue, absolutely. But if we have our border secure, and they have to come through an actual port of entry, now we can process them, we can ID them, and we can just make that determination if they're a felon, if they're wanted for crimes in their home country, and if they are a felon and they're wanted for crimes in their home country, we just say, you're not allowed.
Now, can you tell me, isn't there some kind of Texas law that says Texas has its right to protect its border
Yep.
without the federal government?
Sure.
So we could say, screw you, federal government.
We don't even have to look at Texas Constitution or Texas law. U.S. Constitution, right? So Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, everybody's probably heard, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West talk about that. So Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution gives the states the right, when the federal government doesn't live up to their obligation to actually provide that protection for that state, the governor can...
It's not an
step in.
opinion.
It's not an opinion, right?
Okay.
So then there's Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution as well. That states that we can do this. And there's actually one of the terms in there that I would love to change, because it authorizes the governor, or the governor is authorized to, enforce their border and provide the security. I want to change that word authorized to obligates.
Okay.
So when the federal government fails to uphold their legal obligation, our governor is obligated.
And then he's held
do
to
that.
it.
Yeah,
It's not an
absolutely.
option.
And it shouldn't be determined based off of, is our legislature going to pass something? Are we going to make a declaration of invasion? Are we going to do that? No. He is already doing it at step one.
Now, talking about state rights, what's your thought on Texit?
So
Texit.
All right. Texit is really, the vote on Texit is about having the discussion. That's really what it's about.
We said last week it sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds neat. It's a sentiment.
It's a huge process.
But
Oh my goodness.
how would it work?
So
It's
entailed,
Almost impossible.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and you heard Katrina say that the
And for
state
those
would
that
have
don't know,
to
it's talking
divide.
about seceding, if those don't know what Texit
Right.
is. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
talk of seceding.
Well, and Katrina mentioned, it would have to, break up into 5 different states. No, we don't. All right, it would have the capability to, but it wouldn't have to. It wouldn't be a requirement. Okay, so Texit is just about, we're going to have the discussion based off of what are the processes, what are the steps, and how will we move forward with it if it were to come about and come to fruition. So you would have to look at, now we have to have our own currency, okay, because we wouldn't be using U.S. dollars, right? So, and there's actually, I think, one of the propositions is about based on the gold standard, having the Texas Bullion Repository, right? So we're talking about that. But that is based off of, if you are familiar with Glint, that there's a little debit card, credit card that you can do. Glint's based off of the gold standard. I think it's out of Sweden or Switzerland.
oh, wow.
And so what you do is you purchase, if you were to purchase $1,000 worth of the gold for there, then you would have $1,000 of credit on that card. And it's based on the gold standard price of that time. So it could fluctuate. It could go up based on gold pricing, or it could go down based on the gold price. So you could continue just to throw money into it and build this little reserve, if you will, on your credit card if you never use it, or debit card. And that's on the Glint. Now, what we want to do, because all of the transaction fees, the processing fees, everything else are going towards that country, why not do it here in Texas? That's what that question is about. And people are like, oh, that's a great idea, because now our state can actually have almost our own currency, right? It can still be based off of the gold standard. We can use this instead of having a credit card processing, all this other stuff, because people go into debt on their credit.
And so many things are intertwined with the federal government,
Sure.
too. I mean,
Right.
all the veterans.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Right.
that's a
That's a
nightmare.
huge piece. I mean, here in Rockwall, we're almost 40% or per capita. We have one of the largest veteran populations.
Yeah.
So it's
There's
there's so much. Would the VA still be working with it? Social Security, would that still be involved?
Right. In
Or
my industry, mortgages.
mortgages, how would
I mean,
that
my
work?
gosh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, there's so many different things. When we start talking about trade and commerce, and we start talking about transportation, okay, now you're going to have international borders, between us and
That's true.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, New Mexico.
Right.
See,
Okay.
Oklahoma's protecting
Right.
the borders from the Texas fans.
Louisiana, right? So I mean,
How
you're,
do you
you're
go to
lit-
Choctaw? You got to go to Choctaw, and you got to go through
got to go through borders,
borders.
They
right?
check under the car.
Right. Okay, now let's jump over to pros and cons for Katrina.
Pros and cons for Katrina. I really don't know a lot about her, and there's a lot of people that are infatuated with the Trump perspective. And granted, and I guess this is going to be on a pro, she has been involved all the way back to the Tea Party, and she helped found whatever the Tea Party in Garland, I think it was, right? So she's been involved there, and she's been engaged, and she does know some of the players. Okay, so that I think that would be a pretty good pro. Okay, as the con goes, I don't think she knows enough of the people down in the House and the processes, because I've heard it be said that, and I don't know if it was her who said it or some of her supporters who said it, well, she'll be able just to go in to the governor because she has this relationship and get, this bill passed, or she'll be able just to go in and talk to the AG or do whatever. You can't do that. All right. Anyone who thinks that any legislator, and you can call Holland. You could call Justin and say, Justin, can you walk into the governor's office and talk to him about it? And he's going to just laugh and go, no. You could call Tony Tinderholt. You could call Phelan, right, the Speaker of the House. He still has to set an appointment to go see the governor.
Right.
Now, do they meet with him? Sure. Right?
Right.
So I mean, I've been in the room where we've been invited and we had people come in. What's behind me?
Oh, nothing. It was
Oh,
just
okay.
A truck outside just
Oh.
passed.
Didn't know I had to wear my level 3 as I came here. But you know, I've been in the room. Lieutenant Governor, you know, Dan Patrick has been in the room. He's been presenting to us. He's been talking to us and everything else. But that's not going to be a normal occurrence. I know that you can't do that, and I've heard it said that, well, Dennis is going to be a bull in a china shop, right? And you know, he doesn't understand the process. He doesn't understand the legislation. Okay, let me remind you about what I did last year. Okay, I was down in the session. I was down there working with the legislators. I was down there working with the reps. I was down working with their staffers, with the senators, with their staff. I was working with legislative counsel. I have been involved in the gallery. I've walked through the halls trying to get bills passed, get approval, and you know, people to accept and sign on to legislation. I was one of the team that helped, like I said, House Bill 900 to remove the filth from our schools. So I was actually involved, engaged, and down there doing all of this. And then when I went through Patriot Academy, it's almost a week-long boot camp, if you will, of what happens during the legislative process, all the way from, like with this, filing legislation, to working it through legislative council, working it through the legislative review, getting it into a committee, having to work it through a committee, getting it onto the calendar, having to work it through calendar, get it out onto the floor. When it's on the floor, how do you do your introduction to it? How do you describe it? How do you talk about it? How do you argue for it? You know, right? And then also on the opposite side, if it's not your bill, how do you argue against or provide some support for somebody else's bill? And that can happen in the committee. That can happen on the floor. Once it gets signed there, you have to think about this. It doesn't just happen all of a sudden. It goes from the House to the governor. It goes from the House to the Senate. This process starts over again. It goes into a committee. Then you have to go over and you introduce it to that new committee. Then you work through the process again. So you have to be darn sure you know what you're talking about with your bill.
You know, and I'm really impressed with how much work you've done. And you know, there's not a lot of candidates that are putting all in like you are, and I think Justin even said that as a pro when we asked him about you. He's like, you know, Dennis, you know, really knows what's going on, works hard, and is a firm, you know, you walk the walk, and so that's very impressive. And so obviously the con for her was that she can't, you know, like you said, can't just knowing the people and all that kind of stuff is not going to help you much. But anyway,
Wait,
okay.
I thought Justin's pro for Dennis was he looked young.
Is that
Oh
what
no,
it
that was
No,
Katrina.
that was for her.
That
Yeah.
was Katrina.
I'm sorry.
That was Katrina.
But whatever Sephora she was buying or something. Yeah.
His daughters did her makeup.
Okay,
That's
got
been
it.
funny. Okay, now to kind of wrap up here a little bit, let's get blunt about this race.
Sure.
Okay. You can. I'm sure you
might need
are
a
aware.
It's right here.
I'm good.
It looks like Dennis. It looks like Justin and Katrina are the two duking it out.
Yep.
Do you do polls? Do you order your own polls, or how is? I don't know if order is the right word, but
I haven't requested a poll. I haven't run a poll.
Where's the positive in that for you? That you seem to be not in the fight right now, even though I know there's a lot of people that are supporting you. I see a lot of signs, but you just don't seem to be getting the attention that they are.
because negativity sells.
Right.
Yes.
That's what we said. We couldn't find any dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I've been hearing from a lot of people that I've been winning support from both camps.
Good. Okay.
Simply because I haven't gone negative. I'm not getting into it. I'm not casting the mud. I'm not doing all of that. And I said it last time. I'm not going to be throwing mud. You know, there is a mailer that came out this week, and I got another one that's coming out soon. And it's going to have pictures of me when I went down for banned Democrat chairs, when I was down in legislature. And actually, the picture in the middle, I believe it's going to be in the middle of the next mailer, is going to be, it was sent to me by a senator's wife, who sent it to me and said, this is you, on the Senate cameras, because it's got the picture of the screen, and then underneath it says, I think it's like Senate committee. And so I don't know if I've had that.
We've got some pictures of you at the...
so that one was at Patriot Academy.
That's a great picture.
Yeah.
Right, so that's at the front mic. There it is, Senate
Okay.
Committee on Business and Commerce.
Very
That's where,
official looking right there.
So that's where you get your 3 minutes to
Better
have,
than 90 seconds.
right. Yeah.
Would it kill you to wear a tie? I
Well, I had a tie on, but I'll tell you, by the time that picture came around,
It
were
was a
like,
long
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Long day.
Well, and so there we are at banned Democrat chairs. There was a whole big, thousands
Oh,
of people
wow.
that
Look
were
at
there. right? There's a whole group of us that were in the rotunda. And then let's see who. Oh, that's our state Republican Executive Committee woman, Jerry Fisher.
All right.
And so we were there. Let's see who else you got there.
Is that it, Tyler?
That's it. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Oh, Alan West.
Yeah, Alan West.
Okay.
Yeah. So that picture, we're shaking hands for that. We were at and you can see the logo behind it. Shall not be infringed.
He's a heck of a shot, ain't he?
Well, so he's still recovering from his motorcycle accident from a few years ago.
Oh, really?
So he can't take the 12 gauge hitting his shoulder over and over. So he went off and was firing. I think he had his AR. And so he was over there just having fun. He would come out and he would visit with all the shooters and talk to everybody. And
That's cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that endorsement, that was a tough one to get because as you know, anybody who knows Colonel West knows that he is a constitutionalist.
Sure.
And when he starts asking you questions, you better know.
You better have the answer.
Did you feel like you were on a job interview?
Right?
Okay. You're shaky?
Sir, yes, sir.
Back in the military.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. You know.
So how do you feel right now where the race stands right now?
I feel really good. For the most part, I think that there's going to be a runoff. And, you know, from what I've been hearing, and I'm still knocking on doors and meeting people and talking to folks and having these discussions, and there's a lot of people still undecided.
Yeah, there are.
Right? And there are a lot of people that, you know, as we've said, they're upset with Justin because of one vote or maybe a couple of votes or what have you, right? So they have that camp, and they're looking for someone to be their voice and their vote down in Austin. So they're looking, okay, well, perfect example at the poll today, I had probably, I don't know, a dozen people or so come up and go, I'm undecided. I'm not for Justin because of, and they will list their issue. But it's between you and Katrina. So why you? Right? And I mean, this is where, and folks, which camera am I supposed to look at? Okay.
This one here.
All right, there we go. All right. If you want to meet the candidates, go to the polls. We're all there. Okay. Most of us are there during the day.
I saw you there yesterday.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So we're there and we will answer those questions, and you can pull us aside and have the hard questions. I mean, you want to have that discussion? Come on down.
We wanted all three candidates, and we wanted to be as neutral as we could on these podcasts and ask all the questions that we feel like everybody wants to ask. Am I right?
That was our goal.
Sure. And we're not here to promote any of them. We have our personal opinions, and we know who we're voting for or have voted for.
Right.
But we want to be as fair as we can.
Do you need a button? No, I'm kidding.
And this is where you announce who you voted for.
No. He's like, no, I'm not going to have it.
Not going to go there.
Not doing it. Not going to do it. But
wouldn't be prudent. Not at this juncture.
But I think, not to pat ourselves on the back, but I'm going to. But I feel like you talked about people saying they're undecided. I feel like the three podcasts now with you here, a lot of people have come to me, and I know have come to you and said, man, really getting all the answers I want to get from, and I'm glad you're here, and people can get all three, get the information they want, and go out there and vote. And so I hope that it's helped some.
That was the best feedback to get, that we were providing a service, you know.
No, you really are.
I feel like that's
I've gotten from every camp, including yours, people that are saying, man, I thought I was voting this way, but I might do this, or that made me think, or I definitely now ain't doing this, or whatever it is. Yeah. Because everybody's had their chance to say what they want to say. Has there been anything we haven't covered that you want to say?
No, I think we've done.
We're good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, this has been good.
Well, and you know, I will say I really appreciate you guys doing this in a conversational perspective where it's just not necessarily, and you did it with everyone, right? It's not just as the candidate, right? It's a personal, like we talked about before. If you just met somebody at a bar or restaurant or whatever, and you just were, you know, sitting down, and not necessarily everybody like, oh, yucking it up. Okay, no, you're just having a conversation. Right. And I think we should do that more. More people need to do that.
I agree. That's the whole thing. When you watch the debates, there's a time limit, and you got the rebuttal, and you got this, and everybody's hollering over everybody. And it is. I don't know how many times you get what you want to get from that format, but I like it where we allow the candidate to talk as freely as they want. They're not going to get interrupted unless I'm jumping in and interrupting about something.
Well, but it's not. But you know, we got some hits about not pushing back.
Yes, we did.
We are.
That's not our job.
I keep saying it. We're not trying to be Tucker Carlson. I don't think either of us have the knowledge
No.
to push back properly.
No.
We're just going to let you talk. And then the next guy
Right.
talk. And then people can look it up
Yeah.
or have their own opinions.
And
but-
ask the questions.
Yeah, exactly.
just
and that's our goal
ask.
here. We
Yeah.
wanted to ask the questions that when I talk to friends and like you talk about the campaigns and you talk about the race, I want to ask those questions that we talk about. Man, I
Yes,
wonder
yes.
what Dennis thinks on this, or why did he do this? And we appreciate you coming here, and we
Yes.
appreciate you allowing us to ask questions that may be uncomfortable at times, or
fine.
this whole monarchy thing, which I still haven't figured out. But we'll get to that later. But we have really enjoyed it, and
Absolutely.
I'm when we first started, we were kind of like, let's not do too much politics. But this race was at the top of what everybody was talking about.
Sure.
And so we got to go
Yeah.
and do that.
You do.
Yeah, and we got to get and we had an opportunity and we did it. We hope everybody appreciates it. We know people are not going to like some things. That's the way it goes. But we're not here to promote or degrade or anything like that. We're just here to have fun and yuck it up a little bit and remind everybody that Dennis was born under the Mason-Dixon line.
That is right.
Below the Mason-Dixon line.
And got to Texas as quick as he could.
Amen to
If there's
that.
one thing that you can take from this podcast is that Dennis was below the Mason-Dixon
That's
line.
right.
But anyway, I just really have been excited to do this. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank you.
You know, I've talked to you a lot, but I've never seen you like face to
Right.
face other than yesterday. So that was cool to do that. And I wasn't sure if you were here. Then when I saw the truck, it's so discreet outside.
Who is that?
Is that Dennis? Okay, yeah, it has London on it massively. It's great. It's a great looking truck. And
Yeah.
so
It was a campaign contribution.
there you go. There you go. Take what you can get, man.
That's
and that
right.
looks great. It's really cool.
It is a very good job.
Yeah. And so anyway, so Dennis, thank you very much.
Yes, thank
Oh,
you
I
so
appreciate
much.
it. Thank
Yeah.
you guys. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
All right, we'll see y'all next time. Thank you.